Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Big Bad Booty Bitches Book Club live show for Underneath. We have Sam and Richie here today. Wonderful returners
Woo!
here to talk about Underneath.
I read
Yay.
it on my
Uh,
phone.
Oh, I
It
didn't
was on my
flip my.
Hoopla. Thank God. I don't know if I could justify buying this.
That's fair.
dark.
Honestly, I think I got it for free at like a conference when we were working at the bookstore. I don't know that I've even bought it.
That's fair.
All right. I want to know what were your guys' ratings and like initial thoughts. Richie, I know you've read this multiple times too.
I have. I really want to hear from y'all first because rereading it was kind of a trip, and if y'all said one, I'd believe it. If y'all said five, I'd believe it.
I don't know.
You kind of got
It's
to
like
sit with it.
like the content of it,
Mhm.
I'm like, it goes either way. But the writing
Mhm.
makes me like, okay, but it could be five. Like the writing's good though.
Yeah.
Specifically the fairy tale part, I was like gagged the whole time. I was like, this is literature. This is art. This is what I've been missing in my life.
Mhm.
But it's so fucked up. I don't know. So like
I
maybe
feel
four.
almost the exact same way. To be you four?
Maybe four.
Okay.
Like
I think I'm
I think
leaning
I'm,
towards four too.
yeah.
yeah. I think I'm leaning towards like 4.5. It reminded me of stuff that I read in school
Mhm.
getting an English degree in certain ways. It also reminded me of Liarmouth in some parts, so that was
Mhm.
interesting. But
Okay.
I liked it. I thought the writing was really good, but it was really
Writing is
dark
really good.
and messed up. But I was also glad that they didn't go like crazy gruesome with the death scenes. I
Mhm.
appreciated that.
I think that she
But
handled the subject well, being like, yeah, this is fictionalized, but like I'm not trying to make it about like true crime where they're like, let me tell you all the gory details, and you're like, actually, I didn't need that. So I think that she like handled that specific part really well, just being like, we'll talk about it because we're all fucked up and we do want to know the details a little bit, but not so much that, like that's the main focus. So I did enjoy that. Enjoy is not the right word.
I know
I
what you mean.
listen, I'll say I enjoyed it. The pine cone scene is one of my
Yeah,
favorite scenes in horror. I love it so much. I can't even deny it. I
Wild.
think it's so crazy. I love it so much.
Absolutely wild.
yeah.
Um,
Also, I like the sequencing of it too. Like how we see that pinecone scene, and then later on, it talks about like her being bullied and like getting the pinecone and stuff. So like you're not ready for that pinecone when it happens,
Yeah.
and then
mhm.
later on, you're like, oh my god, it's the pinecone. That was
That's the one. They
I
said the
was
title.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
nonlinear
So
stuff is so hard to do well, and I feel like this book, I really, really liked
Really,
the way that it was handling it.
yes. Like it was like
Um,
very well written.
mhm.
And just like objectively, I was like, like there was parts because we're hearing the narration of a child and it sounds like a kid so often. And then she'll just like write these one-liners and I'm like, oh my god. Like they just hit so hard. And I was like, okay, we're doing this. Like, oh, wild, wild. I'm still reeling. I just finished this.
I know I did too, and I was like, I'm gonna have to like say a rating, and I don't know if I'm ready to say anything at all. That was
Yeah.
so
Like, how do you
it was
talk
so
about
good though.
this?
I liked all of the backstory too on Martha and like her family. That part where it's just the list of like 300 and whatever things that
Yeah.
like people said to her that were so like mean and fucked up, and her
Yeah.
grandpa was the worst ever. I was like,
They were
please
all
choke and die. You are
they all
awful.
sucked.
He had a few one-liners where I was like,
Yeah.
unreal. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just this whole like list of like all of these things that people did to her, and you're like, I understand how you got here, girl. Because without that context, that
Yeah.
pinecone scene was like, girl, you went way too far. She cut your hair and you shoved a pinecone down her throat. That is not the same. But then you see all the bullying, and you're like, honestly, like she kind of deserved that pinecone though, in a
I
way. So, like,
I love that we've
you
not described the plot of this book for a second.
know. Yeah,
Yeah,
Richie, what a
underneath
take on
is about a it is an 11-year-old girl who is trapped in essentially a purgatory. Her mother has murdered her and her 3 siblings. She is the only one who seems to be caught in this purgatory, and for an hour every day, she is forced to go to the prison cell that her mother is in and to just be with her mother and feel what her mother is feeling. And it goes back through not only like all of her childhood while like, you know, her siblings are dying and seeing like that sort of environment. They also go through her mother's childhood to see sort of how she got to the point, because how she killed them, and where the title of the book comes from is that her mother smothered them. Her mother is overweight and rolled on top of them to kill them. So it's
There's
just
also
light
a lot
reading.
of hate.
Really casual light reading on
Yeah.
a fine
Yeah.
summer day.
It's a little beach read for September.
Oh, imagine reading this on a beach next to other people. I think I'd just die.
I was
You
reading
know,
it
at
at
least
work, dude.
The cover you would never know. Like
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's like reading romance with like a cute little cover. It's like you'll never know what I'm reading right now.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
it looks very literary, and I think a lot of the prose is pretty literary, but like it is a horror. Make no mistake.
Yeah, no, there was 83 reviews on Goodreads. Like nobody's read this. And
It's not super popular,
it's
which is
literally
kind of why I wanted to do
horror?
it, honestly, because I'm a little obsessed with it. Like I think it's so. I hesitate to be like it's underrated, but like I really do feel like this one is very underrated. People
Absolutely.
are not talking about it in the way that they absolutely should be.
Absolutely. No, I was reading it on Sprints yesterday, and I was like, I feel weird explaining this book to people, but I'm really liking it. Like the more I'm reading it, the more I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Honestly, I had never heard of this until Richie told me about it. Richie was like, "You have to read this. This is one of my faves." And then as soon as I read the first line, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be one of my faves too. This is really good." Also, plus, I feel like it's got the female serial killer thing, and I think that's so popular now. But I feel like when this came out, maybe 2021, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, why was this not included in there with all these other ones that were
Don't worry.
big?
I will be recommending this to Kayla from Books and Lala. And then
Yes,
we'll see the masses
Let's
pick it up.
go.
that would be awesome.
I will say it is a a Portland author, and I got it at like a Pacific Northwest conference specifically, so I don't know that it has that much national reach. I think it might
That's
be
so
kind of
cool.
a PNW special.
I live there almost 2 hours away.
Sam's like, yeah.
Yes, Pacific Northwest. We're all fucked up.
I mean, hey, she's still doing stuff. If she's ever doing a signing, roll up and be like,
right.
that pinecone scene? Sign my book.
Just like the way that the book opens up, like the first 2 chapters, I was like, oh, this is going to be like so well written that I'm already obsessed. Like the way she's like, I was never religious, so I don't really know what this is. It's definitely not heaven and it's definitely not hell. And I'm not religious and I don't think it's purgatory, but I don't know what to call it. And I was like, this is for me.
So much of her, like, I think you hit the nail on the head when you were like, she's like very clearly a child, and then she'll say something that's like so not from a child's perspective. And I think that's so cool to kind of play with, like, okay, you're 11, but you've been dead for how long? And so you do have the brain of an 11-year-old, but the experience of someone much older than that. I think it was handled really, really well.
Every vampire ever wishes that they were written this way.
Oh.
That's so true. Also, I liked how it went into Martha's mom too, Bernice. That was interesting. She
Mhm.
was an interesting gal.
Very interesting.
I don't mean to sound ladybird pilled, but like the mother-daughter relationship, let's explore it. Let's talk about it. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my
Like,
god, yeah,
it's
no. Once I
so
realized,
cool.
once I realized like, oh, this is about mother-daughter bonds and relationships and trauma, I was like, I'm in it. And then I was like, how is this all relating to murder? Where are we going? There was moments where I was just like, what is the author's intention when writing this? Because like I want to love this book, but I don't know how much of it is like the author's voice or just like the story itself that I don't know enough information about. I was just like, I don't know if I'm supposed to feel like this is good. It's like, am I supposed to read this and go, oh, bad? Or am I supposed to acknowledge like, It's good. It was well written.
I think it maybe it's in the afterwards, somewhere in the book, or maybe I was just reading an interview, but Lily Wong was talking about how like she was like, I wanted to like get into it. Kind of reminds me honestly of when we read Mary. Like she was talking about wanting to get into the head of this person, and like she read this case and it kept like it stuck with her, and she was like, I want to figure out what would make someone get there. So I don't uh the facts I'm gonna say like 75% accurate is what it seems to me
Okay.
from everything I read. Um but like from an emotional standpoint, I do really think because I struggled a lot with the way I will say the way the fat people are spoken about in this book.
This book feels of a different time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know it's written in
It feels
2021, but
wild
it's
that it was written
not.
in 2021.
Yeah.
Um, which I struggled with because on the one hand, I was like, you know, it's supposed to be showing like the way that fat people are treated and the way that like this culture is what made Martha who she is. But on the other hand, I was like, this is like 200 pages of people just being like, this fat girl's ugly and deserves to die. And I was like,
Let's
okay.
list all the funny names we can call her. You're like, oh
Yeah,
my god.
yeah.
And it's one of those things where like my little sense of justice is just like, why didn't a singular person around do anything at all? Like it baffles me when like
Yeah.
kids are getting bullied in school and the teachers are just like, I think it's kind of funny. And I'm just sitting here like, how does anyone have the brain capacity to do that? I don't get it. And so like it's hard for
Yeah.
me to put myself in these stories in any way to like try and understand the mindset of people. Cause like when you're harassing a child, I'm just like, I know kids are mean, but I still don't get it. And I know I was probably mean in elementary school, but like I've also grown and I'm like, I don't know how people do things.
Yeah. Well, and I could see like at school, the kids, yeah, kids are mean and kids are awful, but the teachers also didn't do shit. And there's
Yeah.
like one part where it's talking about like two female teachers in the bathroom, and Martha like hears them, and one of them's like, the kids are so mean to her, and the other one's like, but doesn't she like kind of deserve it? Girl, what do you
Yeah.
mean does she kind of deserve it? No. And then her grandparents being like crazy mean and awful to her,
Yeah.
and
The
her
gym
grandma being
coach,
really religious.
the
Yeah,
like
it's like, oh,
science teacher that or math teacher that like brought her up, and then the one student stands up and she's like, I don't care if she's smart. She's fat, therefore she's dumb. And I was like, if someone
yeah,
said that in my school, I think the teacher would have like smoke out of their ears, like would have lost it. It's
yes.
just
And
like
the teacher's just like, okay.
I mean, I think it also, not to be this guy, but like given the fact that that part was meant to take place in like, well, because, okay, in real life, I will say, so the murders took place in, oh my God, I should have had it pulled up, but the murders did not take place in the modern day. Like, this is not meant to take place in the modern day. And so I
It
can
didn't feel
definitely
like
see
it.
in like a school in the 50s there being like
Yeah.
a different reaction.
I know that there was
Um,
like TVs and home phones, so I was like, okay, I kind of get what type of time this is. It's definitely not modern, and so I know the fat phobia is like significantly worse then than it is now. Well, it's not great now, but like people aren't as blatant about it
mhm.
um, to that degree, and so like I
Yeah,
knew it wasn't modern.
her kids died in real life between 1977 and 1982.
Wow. Okay.
And so she was born, Martha was born in 1955. So she would have been
Okay.
in elementary school in the early 60s, which
Yeah.
Glad I wasn't.
I I also do want to say, kind of in the vein of like you're reading these horrible things and you're like, okay, I get this is like from a time period, but like, dude, lot of pot shots at Mexican people in this book that I kind of forgot were there, and I kept reading them and was like, I don't know that this has anything to do with anything.
Oh my god, no. When she oh my god. Okay. I will say, Kenny, what a dear for the situation he was put in. But
We
when
love
they
Kenny.
were sitting outside looking at the stars and stuff, and she goes, Kenny, do you believe in aliens? And he goes, well, we live on the border and I don't want them here, but I also want them to do my dishes. And she goes, no, Kenny, in space.
And he's like, oh, sorry. Kenny.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kenny.
But that's kind of what, like, because they make a
Oh,
like
no.
a weird shot at like her teacher, and you're like, on the one hand, it is the teacher who was like, maybe she deserves it and like doesn't really do anything, but I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know that that's because she's Mexican so much
You know,
as
they were like,
because
she's
she's a bad
Mexican, so she's
teacher.
dumb.
Like,
And we're like,
it seems like a weird
yeah.
route to take on this. And
It's
it
also weird.
felt like in character, but I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know, like that was one where it like really bumped up against the line where I was like, I can't tell anymore if this is like the character or the author. And I feel like with stuff
Yes.
like that, you kind of need to be able to tell.
Yeah, I had that issue a few times too, where I was just like, okay, one, I keep forgetting that the author is not a white woman from the South. And so I just really was like, okay, she's like so method acting right now. She's like in the zone with these characters because I am a white person. I don't even know if I could write a character this true. And if I was of a different ethnicity, I don't think I could do it the same way. So I was baffled. I was just like, I don't want to like put any of this on her. I don't think it's her at all, which makes it that much more like well done on the writing. But at the same time, it's like there were moments where I was just like, who's talking? Like the 11-year-old girl who died in the 70s? Like what is, I guess, the 80s, but like it's just kind of wild.
Yeah. Yeah. It was it was a lot sometimes. I will say though, that's kind of because like so I looked her up because honestly, when I finished the book, the first thing I wanted to know is like, okay, is Lily Wong fat? She is
Same.
not.
She's not.
She's
Her
not.
picture, she's a cute, skinny little girl. Like,
Yep.
sorry, not little girl, but like small. She's a full-grown adult. She's a small woman.
A small adult woman.
Small adult woman.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, and I again, like we talked about with Mary, I don't think you have to be exactly the prototype of the character you're writing to be able to write it well. But it was kind of, I was like, this one felt a little more odd in like she was getting into things that like growing up fat, I definitely felt. But I was like, I don't know that this rings like super true to me. But I also didn't grow up fat in the 60s. So
Yeah.
who's to say? And also, I didn't grow up fat with grandparents who hated me and made
I
me
thought I
sleep in the
was
backyard.
literally
So
the
maybe that would have been a
devil.
different scene for me.
Yeah.
Dude, I wasn't ready for the scenes of her grandma just rope tying her to the bed and having like a Latin priest come in and scream at her. What?
Yeah.
She's fat. Like, she's not Satan. I'm so
Yeah.
confused. Those things
Like,
are not. Where did she get the devil shit from? Is it because she
Yeah.
was born like out of wedlock or whatever?
I was thinking it might have
Probably.
something to do with her mom being a sex worker.
Like,
That
yeah, but
probably
her
too.
mom had her like before she was a sex worker. Her mom had her as like when
Yeah.
she was a teenager.
That's true.
So like, what
That's
are we
true.
talking about?
But also she was like, Beatrice is the perfect daughter. She's popular and everyone loves her and she's like such a sweet
Right.
little angel. And then she's like, I want to get so nasty under these bleachers. And you're like, okay, we're getting two very different perspectives of this Beatrice. And then
Dude, not only was she like, I want to get nasty into these bleachers, she was like, I want to have a baby
I want to have a
with
baby
anyone.
right now.
That
That was
was so
out of
wild.
with the note thing, and she's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, Joey's fine, I guess.
Joey will do.
I'm over it. I thought for sure that's not where I thought that scene was going. I was like, oh, he like attacked her or something. No, she fully was just like, I want to have a kid, and you're here, so that's fine. But then I was like, wait, then she slept with the other guy she actually liked. So I was like, wait, which one is the dad?
Well,
Does she
neither.
even know? Does she even care?
No, I think Arlen is the dad because she
Mhm.
names her daughter Arlene.
Well,
Right,
Arlen
and
is
then-
No,
Arlene's dad, but you know how Bernice like slept with the two dudes who both had the initials
Yeah.
JB?
Right,
Yeah.
who's
Which one of
Martha's
them
dad?
was the dad? Because she hooked up with them both in like the same week.
Oh.
Right. So, and then it's like, okay, well, girl, you were the one who wanted to have this baby. So, like, why are you mad at your own baby? Like that, you were the one who was like, man, you initiated this entire sequence. You can't
Yeah.
even be mad.
And
It
then
wasn't like the guy came up
hate
to you and
her.
was like, hey,
Yeah, and then like the parents are hating her, but instead of taking it out on their daughter who's
daughter.
made these decisions, they're mad at the child. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's a stretch, but all right. Whatever makes you happy, I guess.
That was wild.
I
And then how she names the kids after the dads.
Hilarious.
Like Jimbo's kid is little Jimmy, and then Arlen's daughter is Arlene.
Arlene.
I was like, you couldn't even name your own kids like a separate name. You had to just name them the guy you boned. I
I literally thought that was so funny.
Well, and the only one who did get kind of her own name was the fourth kid,
Suzanne.
Suzanne.
What about Erwin? Because
Rip.
didn't Kenny name him?
Yeah, Erwin.
Oh,
named by Penny.
sorry, I'm going true crime mode. In real life, Erwin was named after his dad.
Oh, T.
But for the purpose of a book, it probably would be too confusing to say Kenny like for two different people.
Right.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Let's talk about Kenny. When we first got introduced to Kenny, I was like, Kenny's a piece of shit and needs to get his own beer. And then by the end, I was like, Kenny's a king.
Kenny's a king. I was so nervous the entire time that this was going to go into like childhood essay or something like that would traumatically happen. And it wasn't really going on. And I was like, okay, are we okay? So he's good.
Way my stomach was in my throat. I have to confess something. I completely forgot that in the last third of the book, with her falling off the roof and everything that happened, completely forgot that. So I was reading it and I was like, what? But the bath scene with Kenny afterwards, my heart was in my throat.
No,
I was like, did I somehow black out?
I was so nervous. I was like, not Kenny. No, please.
Yeah. And then I honestly cried during that scene. Like the fact that he's just like, hey, like this is what we gotta do. You're my kid, all right. And I was like, oh, okay, Kenny.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kenny.
The way he actually cares so much for those kids, and they're not even his, is unreal.
I won't forgive him for leaving. Bitch, you're gonna leave for a week? Just take the kids. I get it, you want a bone, but like,
listen, baby number 1, I understand. Baby number 2, even maybe I understand. But baby number 3, there is zero excuse. Like, what are you talking about? You know what happens.
You know. Yeah. And the fact that, like,
for context for anyone who hasn't read the book, so she murders them whenever she gets into a fight with her husband Kenny. He will like leave for like a week, and then she kills one of the kids so that he'll come back and be with her again, which he does.
Insane.
He definitely knows by like the second for sure. Like he's like, this is
sure. When your second kid dies of SIDS in like 8 months, like sorry, that's not a thing that happens in like it's not.
And Martha's fully home 24/7 too.
Oh yeah.
I could see if it was like, oh, she was gone or whatever, you know. But like, what? And then one of them's a 3-year-old. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's a toddler, but I guess you could still consider them an infant. I don't know.
Can I put on my true crime hat again?
Please.
Yes.
So in real life, the reason why it did not get clocked is because the 2 infants, they were smothered and they were classified as SIDS cases. The toddler went into the hospital because he had somehow gotten into rat poison.
Arsenic? Yeah.
Which developed into a seizure condition, and he died of a seizure a few months later.
Oh.
So
because I remember like they're like, Erwin died because she suffocates him, but he also died with arsenic in his body and no one knew. And I was like, wow, this feels very Flowers in the Attic right now.
Yeah, no, in real life, and I mean like to be very clear, legally speaking, this is actually all alleged because she was only convicted of one of these murders. But he somehow found his way into some rat poison, which caused him to develop a seizure like disorder, and so he did not actually get smothered in real life. So that's why that's a little weird. Where you're like, why would you think that a 3-year-old died from smothering? He didn't.
It was also weird that like they kept talking about how like one of the cakes was with arsenic and the other were cinnamon, and I was like, what does this have to do with anything? Like he's just getting sick, I guess, and like, but that makes sense why that's a detail that was mentioned just for his case.
Yep. Yeah. Because that's actually it was pretty interesting. They didn't so first of all, for kind of a Doyleistic explanation as to why Arlene is the only one in this purgatory, she's the only one who they convicted her.
Because she was much older, so it was a lot easier to.
Yeah. So
also, I think
she's the only one who actually got a conviction. Which I can't say for sure is what Lily Wong was thinking, but it definitely made sense to me when I read it. And then, yeah, she was asphyxiated. They did not say for sure if she was smothered, but they found her like face down on her bed, asphyxiated. So that was the only the two babies, it appears, were specifically smothered by being rolled over. And to be clear, maybe I shouldn't even say allegedly, this isn't true. Martha, the real Martha, did confess. They have her confession on tape. They played it for a jury, but she recanted the confession. So it wasn't like technically admissible as a confession in court. They could just show her saying it, and then she still did get convicted of one.
Thank God.
And also got put out on parole like 2 months ago or something, like just an obscenely short amount of time ago. Yeah, very, 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 maybe 2 years ago, but like very within the 2020s was paroled and is out and about, still alive.
No.
Just kicking. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like that fact.
Deeply unfun fact, I'll say.
Yeah, no kidding. That's so fucked up. Ugh. But yeah, I know that like in the book, Arlene dies with a like grocery bag over her head, and I think that like if you do an autopsy is a lot easier to prove rather than like other ways, like I don't know, rolling on a child. But I can't say that I've seen that happen in true crime enough that I can tell you what an autopsy of being suffocated by a body would look like.
Yeah.
But
the autopsy report that I read just said asphyxia. It didn't specify anything in particular, but it did. I think it said something basically to the effect of like asphyxia, and it wasn't that she choked on a peanut. Like it was clearly like a violent asphyxia.
yeah, bruising or
so,
something, or
yeah,
some type of marks. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, back to
Stuff.
Kenny.
Back to Kenny.
Back to Kenny. Like news. Our hero, but like kind of not. Our morally gray king.
We truly love a morally gray king, though. What a good character, because he sucks so bad, but he's also like the only person who cares about these kids at all. So you're like, Kenny, come on, get it together, man.
Like I cling to like my issue with The Bluest Eye was there was just no hope. It was so bleak the whole time. But this, like, there was hope. Like Arlene had that outlet in Kenny where it was like, hey Kenny. He's like, that's my girl. What you doing? She's like, homework. And I'm like, oh, this is what I need. Like, I don't want to just read sad, awful things the whole time. I need something to latch on to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kenny and Anna. Anna was also a dear doll. Yeah. That was Arlene's best friend.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Who would like show up late at night on the window and then they would book it so they didn't wake up the beast.
They should have just kept booking it, to be honest.
Yeah. No, the thing that like baffles me is like Anna, being her best friend, probably knew a little bit at least that something was up. If not, like they fully discussed it. Like, why didn't Anna's mom be like, how about kid, you come live with me for a little while? Like, it's just not enough adults intervening.
That is so true. I also feel like, though, when you're 11, like, the type of shit you get in trouble for when you're 11, like, I know so many friends who would, like, tell their parents, like, hey, my friend is going through a hard time, and the response from the parents was like, so you're never allowed to see them again. Like, it wasn't like, oh, let me help. And so it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
But
also, like, different times where no one trusted kids, especially, and it was just like, yeah, sure, it's very Matilda, where it's like, I'm sure that's happening.
I do love the fact that you brought up that they, like, are running from the beast. The amount of fairy tale imagery in this book is so delicious, and the way that they play with Martha, like, wanting to be a princess but actually being the beast is so good and so fun to read. I also love the little peek into her relationship with Janie with the Martian.
The Mars story? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That
was cool.
I'm going to tell you the story that my mom always told me. I'm just kidding. I'm actually making all of this up. Let's continue. It just the way that the story went on tangents, like when I was reading it on sprints yesterday, I was like, so I'm reading about, horrific things and things kind of suck. And then Arlene starts telling me about the 4 types of poisonous snakes and vipers. And I'm just like, I love this. Maybe it's like the mentally ill in me, but I'm just like the tangents that we go on because a kid's telling us this story. And where it's like Arlene's telling us the story about the Martians and Mars and then goes on a tangent and is like, wait, I was telling a story. I'm so sorry. I love telling stories and I completely forgot what I was doing. Let me go back to the story. And I was just like, this is the like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I honestly think it's part of what makes the book like a bearable thing to read, because I know like a lot of the stuff that we've like been talking about, like this is a dark book.
Heavy. Yeah.
But then in the middle of it, they will just cut themselves off at the pass and be like, let's talk about the Princess and the Pea for a second. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it gives you like that little bit of tension release to be like, okay, we can dive
Yes.
back in.
Yeah.
Which feels so well paced to like an abusive environment, of like those tiny little moments where you can breathe, like letting you continue through all of this and like sort of like deal. It's the writing in this book is so good.
It's so good. But like my favorite part was probably the fairy tales where it's like Beatrice is telling part of a story and then it switches to Martha's perspective. But whilst you're like getting them telling these stories, you're also seeing a bit of the dynamics of like, I'm sorry, I won't speak. I want to hear the stories because these are the stories that this is my time with you. This is all I have to cling on to. But then you're like going from Beatrice to Martha to Arlene telling it to her little brother. And I'm just like, this is perfection. Like truly, like that was the moment where I was like, oh, this book could be 5 stars. Because just the way that she was just pacing these fairy tales, going through the different women's perspectives, I was just like, this is mastery. Like, sorry, no one else could do this.
I love within the moments of all of that, like especially from going down from like Arlene to little Jimmy, how brutal and like truly bleak it is to listen to the way that Bernice is treating Martha and the way that Martha's treating Arlene. And then for Arlene, there was one line that like made me genuinely like choke up, where she's like, I put a little rock inside of his overall pocket so he would have a surprise later. And I was so emotional. I truly had to take a break. I was like, this is
No, her love for her brother was so beautiful. And it was just like, it's so sad to see a small child having to take care of their siblings because the mom just can't do it. And it's so hard to put that burden on a kid. But Arlene, through the entire story, was such joy. No matter how bad things would get, how awful losing her brother was, like she was still such a light to read from and just be with. I was like, you are exactly what it's exactly what happens to kids that are dealing with trauma and passed down trauma, like the residue of trauma. It's just so well done of just being this kid of like, things are really hard and sucky, but like at the same time, I'm gonna hold out hope for these little things, like these little moments with Kenny and like watching space and stuff. Just so well done.
She had so many good lines. There's a line like after that scene where the fairy tale switch, where Arlene is like, "I'm never gonna get to tell these stories to my children because I'm never gonna bleed because she died so young." That got me. I was like, "Oh no, not you, Arlene."
Yeah.
You're the best
When she would mention
one."
like never having a first kiss and stuff, I was just like,
Yes. Oh my god.
and
And when she was
also,
talking about she like wanted to have a husband, but she didn't want to have kids because every kid that she loves dies.
yeah, and she's like, I don't care what his name is, but I was like the little like hint of misogyny with that part where she was like, I will have a nice job, I'll be this or that, but he'll have a better job than me. And I was like, girl, don't put yourself down like that. Dream bigger.
I loved in that part where she was like, his name can be whatever, but I just want it to be a normal name. Like, I just want things to be normal. It was so good, Richie. Oh, I think she is, so like truly delightful to read from. And so when you take that turn, because there's a pretty significant portion, and I would say like the second third of the book, where it is just Martha's childhood. And I think that was the hardest part of the book to read. And I also think it's proof that Lily Wong is a master of her craft, because dealing with it in list form is honestly maybe the only way I could get through that.
Yeah, no,
Those
there was
like
even times where
25 pages of just like trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. Like, it was
I skimmed a little bit. I
so
was like, oh no, oh god, this is not. And then there was like beautiful one-liners in there. There was just like, and the way that like Lily Wong like talked about space so often throughout, I was just like, this is gorgeous imagery. Just the one-liners really hit. I wish that I had a copy because I would probably be highlighting the shit out of this. Hoopla doesn't let you annotate books, so I was just like screenshotting things that I liked.
I didn't highlight a ton because honestly I was
So into it. Yeah.
I was reading. But one of the lines that I wrote that I really love because it's after so it's 350 is the number in the list. It says in science, Mr. Barnett is going on about the solar system. He asks what planet is most like you, the one you find affinity with. All the girls say Mercury because it's hot and small. A bunch of boys say Earth because they lack imagination. One or two say Mars because it's big and red and their favorite drink is Big Red. Mr. Burnett calls on you. You stand up. I would either be Pluto because it doesn't fit in, or maybe Jupiter because it's as large as a barge. You have just converted cruelty into power. How does it feel? It feels like you're Jupiter today.
Yeah. No, also the way that the author went from like first person to second person to third person talking about all of these like things, just every time there was like a you notice this, you feel this. I was like, ouch. No.
You're like, I do feel that. Okay.
And I don't want to.
But for all of that rough, like that super brutal middle part, to me, honestly, the moment where it's like it really felt like you were like, we have to be done, like we have to be done, is after she falls off the roof that final time. And it was like just the wind gets knocked out of you.
Yeah.
Like reading through that, I was like, oh, of course, this like I understand why I forgot this part because it is so just hopeless. Like it is really the moment where it finally like lets it sink into you that like these children are dead. Like, oh, it was so well done.
And
so well done. So hard to read.
The way that Arlene throughout is just like, it's not foreshadowing because you already know she's going to be like, she opens the book with her being dead. But like the way that she still foreshadows, she's like, when I was alive, I knew I was going to die. Like I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I knew at some point. And I was just like, girl, I feel so hard for you right now. But it was the first time she fell where she's like, I didn't even think to shout because no one was going to hear me. Martha didn't care. And then when Kenny finds her and like rushes her to the hospital, I'm just like, oh my God. That's
Kenny finding her both times like is so upsetting. It's
and,
so
like,
upsetting because of course he would.
I'm gonna cry.
But like it is really like
time,
this feeling of like he clearly loves her and is the only one who does, but he is so too little too late every single time. Like, oh, it was genuinely stunning.
Yeah, no, when he like had his hand on her head when he finds her and he's like, it's gonna be okay. Kenny's here, and she's just like, please don't leave. And when oh my God, the entire like hospital scene was causing me so much stress where she couldn't when Anna comes to visit and she couldn't feel anything and starts panicking and couldn't see and stuff. I was like, oh my God, this is so hard. Well, it's so heavy, but it's so well written too that you're just like, I feel this.
I will say in the research that I did could not find that in the true story. I do not know that she actually broke her back. I don't know if that was a fabrication. But the scene where she tells the social worker and Kenny that she doesn't want to go home because her mom's going to kill her is true.
Her mom, yeah, when she goes, no, she's a monster, and the social worker's like, sorry, what?
Yeah,
what?
no,
Why did you say that?
In all of the newspaper articles, they were like, yeah, and this girl said that she did not feel safe with her mom. She knew she was going to die if she went home, but they didn't have enough concrete evidence. So they did just send her home anyway, and about 2 months later, she was dead. Which was so much to read.
And Arlene saying, like, in the chapter, or like in the portion where she's like, I just want a normal life with my normal husband who has a normal name. She wanted to be like a neuroscientist or neurologist or something, or a social worker. And I was like, honey, you would have been such a good social worker.
The fact that her wanting to be a scientist too brings back like Kenny getting her like the chemistry set for her birthday, and she didn't know she was supposed to get gifts for her birthday until Kenny gave her this.
And the way that she didn't want to use it for so long because she was so scared to ruin something, like break something so perfect that she was like, I have homework. I can't use it right now. Ow!
She didn't even know what a birthday was.
Yeah.
There for a while.
Yeah.
And she'd never gotten a present. And then her mom gives her chocolate cake and she knows that she hates chocolate cake. And she's like, this is a punishment, but I don't know for what.
They describe food in this book in such a visceral way that it feels like you're eating it.
There's so much
like so wild. The way that Kenny, the first time Kenny really like lays into Martha, and it's, let me describe baking this cake, Kenny saying something, tuning back into baking the cake, Kenny like just yelling at her, saying just awful things, just, and then right back to, let's finish this cake, like let's cracking the eggs, whipping it, like all of it. I was just like, this is, I'm speechless. There's just no way to explain like the way that she's written all of this out. But like as somebody who grew up with internalized fat phobia as a child, because I just was ignorant and didn't understand life nearly enough, and then like developed an eating disorder, this whole book was just like, oh yeah, like I get so much of this. Like Arlene developing bulimia because she has no control. It was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, despite all the other dark stuff that we're talking about, I might honestly say that like if you have an eating disorder or have had an eating disorder, that might actually be the biggest content warning that I give, because it is so clear without her having to explicitly state it, like how food and eating are used as coping mechanisms and forms of control in a way that is like wildly too close to home, like so deeply too intimate, if you're not prepped to read that. Like it is wonderful, and so well done, but there were multiple scenes where, and like I think the scene where she's describing baking the cake, like it is so abundantly clear that it's like this is her like dissociation is this food. And if she can just focus on whipping the batter and cracking the eggs and preheating the oven, like then the other stuff like might as well not be happening.
Yeah, chocolate cake is all I got.
Oh
yeah, thank God I'm in a good headspace for this, because like it's definitely one of those things. Like I read a lot of things lately that have just like put me in a bad place, like horror movie, bad mental space, had to DNF The Bluest Eye because horrible mental space. But this one, for whatever reason, I think just the way that it's written is like, even though it's heavy and dark and there's so much like just layered on layered, it still didn't feel like I was going to suffer because of it. Like it's just written in a way that like you can still handle it, even though it's horrible. And like the fat phobia especially is just like so hard to listen to, but it didn't like have like a deep effect on me where I was just like, I feel, but I'm not internalizing it onto myself in any way, which I think was a good.
I think the fantasy aspects, honestly, like really might be the thing that saves it from that, where they really do sort of like pull you out and remind, which is so funny because like it is a true story. But they are so like Lily Wong is so insistent on being like, and remember this is fiction, and remember this is fiction, and hey guys, this is just fiction the entire time. In a way that I don't think I've ever really seen done. I don't think I've seen a book insist so much that it's just a book.
Yeah, the fairy tale elements reminded me of some of the parts in The Dream House by Carmen Marie Machado. Like my favorite parts in that were also the fantasy parts when she's talking about like the abuse that she went through with her girlfriend and stuff. That reminded me of a lot of this.
Yeah,
that's on my TBR.
Like the choose your own adventure portion and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That one's really good, Sam. It's really dark too. But
have you read it?
Incredible.
I will soon. It's been on the TBR for so long. It's just one of those authors where I'm like, you gotta be in the right space for this one, because I know it's so important to talk about like abusive queer relationships, but at the same time, it's like, all right, you gotta be ready.
Yeah. It's definitely one. Sure. It was a hard one. I really love it, but the friend who I'm reading It Ends With Us, she has my copy right now.
I love how your friend is like, I want to read Colin Hoover, but also I need to read Carmen Maria Machado.
Well, we did like this is the same. I think I've talked about her on here before. This is the same friend who we did a swap, and I lent her In the Dream House, and she lent me that incest romance.
Oh.
And now we're reading It Ends With Us together. So
that's
and she said next on her TBR is Lolita, and I was like, all right, okay.
You have to have the balance. You gotta read the messed up things and then fill it in with like something that's gonna make you laugh.
Oh yeah,
you're not gonna read.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Pretty true.
Yeah.
You gotta supplement with the weird smut. That helps.
Hey,
Helps
listen.
me.
She read Icebreaker in the midst of all that, so she's doing fine.
There you go.
I do feel like this one, maybe in talking about, maybe I'm gonna give it a 4.5. Maybe
No,
maybe
I'm
I'm raising
right
my
there with you.
rating.
I'm like, it does feel like a 5. It just feels like because of the content, I don't want to give it 5,
Yeah.
but I think it's a good story, like objectively written so well.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think about the end?
um I I was gonna say I liked it, which is like the most non-answer. Uh, I I do like it. I do think there were other places that I felt the book could have ended without needing the last chapter tacked on.
Hmm.
But that's just me.
I feel that. I just wanted Martha to die in prison so bad. When she just got to walk at the end, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Also, like her talking on the phone to this guy Carlos, and
Yeah,
she's just like gonna marry him. Who the hell is Carlos? How did she meet this man when she's in
genuinely.
prison? What? He knows
Like,
she's in prison. Why is he like, yeah, come take care of my kids? What? Hmm?
yeah, like it felt kind of like how Ted Bundy was just like known and people just sent fan mail. It's like
Yeah.
how what's wrong? What do you mean?
So popping on the old true crime hat again.
Thank you.
Real Martha did not get charged for anything at all for 7 years. She was fully married. She was well and fully married and like living in another city and like just had a whole other life by the time she finally got arrested. So I would
Wow.
imagine Carlos is a stand-in for her actual next husband. Because yeah,
Wow.
because they said with the first two kids it was SIDS, with the third kid it was epilepsy, with the fourth kid they were like that's a little weird, but like whatever, and just kind of let it slip under the cracks. And then she moved, and like straight up in reading it, a bunch of people basically were like, this is a case of like because these happened in two different counties, and the two counties like police forces do not really talk to each other. Nobody really put it together. And then 7 years later, um, somebody at it was the Atlanta Journal, something, I don't know, some Atlanta newspaper, basically got a tip about this 11-year-old girl who said that she was scared to go home with her mom, got sent home with her mom, and then died. And they did an investigation into it. They put out an article about it. And at that point, the police forces were like, oh, oops, and
Oopsies.
looked into it and arrested her.
Oops.
But yeah, it was
That
fully
happens.
like 7 years before she got arrested.
That happens so
Hopefully it
often
was
with true
some
crime.
like some person in a newspaper who like saw some shit. And the
Yeah.
cops were like, "Oh, we missed it." What do you mean you missed it? Isn't that your
Well,
job?
And
Oh my god.
there is a quote from the first doctor where he was like, yeah, I'm gonna be so honest with you, like I misdiagnosed that as SIDS. If I looked at the information again, he was like, I reread the report. I don't know what I was doing. Like that was not a SIDS case. I don't know why I said it was SIDS. Which is also insane objectively.
I mean,
But yeah,
thanks for owning up
basically
to it
everybody just kind
eventually,
of like
but
whoopsies, and 7 years
dude.
passed and she was married again.
Yeah, no, this is really just a tale of like how the system will fail people inevitably. Like the cops just not acting quick enough when it comes to cases, social workers just not being able to do enough, compile enough evidence to make things happen, even if they know something's wrong. Doctors being just dumb sometimes. It's like, you, what are you doing? Like, it's just the
Didn't
system
have
will
their morning
inevitably
coffee,
fail.
misdiagnosed him. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think I agree. I mean, I agree with you that I wish Martha had died at the end, but I also feel like it kind of made sense to me because that felt like almost a little too wrapped up with a bow. Because then you have to answer the question of what happens to Arlene after that, and I don't know that there was an answer that would have
Right.
satisfied me
Hmm.
if they had broached that.
Right. When she
Plus
kind of
also
says she
like,
feels like she's going to be there forever, even if Martha dies, it doesn't change what happened to her.
yeah. And also she's with the like other murdered people. Like she mentions that she
Right.
sees other people, and so like it just like that's just where she'll be. And God, it's so cool to be like, hey, you're in a purgatory for murder people. Go watch your abuser for an hour every day. It's like you're kidding me. Why? Oh,
I kind
it
of
just
wanted her to go try and find Kenny in the last, like,
that would have been good.
Yeah,
Where's
well, we don't
Kenny
really
now?
know what happened to Kenny. Like, they get divorced, and then Kenny's just kind of like in the wind.
I would also probably be
Also,
in the wind if that happened to me. I'd be like, I don't want to be found. I don't want anyone to know who I am.
yeah, yeah, but also like, I understand that she was like killing the kids to get back at Kenny because they were fighting and stuff. But why wouldn't Kenny just be like, "We're getting a divorce. I'm taking the kids." Like, no.
I mean, I don't know that a custody case would have really rolled in his way in the late 70s for a
Yeah.
dad to be like, I want to leave my wife and take the kids that aren't biologically mine.
Right.
Just because
Well,
my
Because
wife
like,
is
yeah,
fat and like
yeah,
mean.
like, well, because I mean, he could even be like, well, she killed him, and it's like, well, no, there are like doctors' reports that say that they're SIDS.
Yeah.
So
right.
I don't
So
know
like the
what there
only
was
good
to
case he would
do.
have is the fact that he had like a job and like was guaranteed to like be able to take
Right. And
care
she
of the
did.
kid financially, where she
Yeah,
was just getting, I guess, social securities or disability or something. But
yeah.
yeah, I guess it's
Um,
also fair to the ending of not having her die in the end because it's not factually what had happened.
no.
And so it's only fair to be like, well, as shitty as it is for all of us, this is how it is. Oh,
Um,
it sucks.
My timeline was off. She was granted parole on March 23rd, 2020, so she rolled out of prison straight into the pandemic. Um,
So that's probably why Lily
Wow.
Wong wrote the story when she did, because
21. Yeah.
she probably got news of
can I
parole.
tell you, Lily Wong said in an interview that she found she found the story when she was on Murderpedia, which is a
Oh my god.
website that I have to confess I spent just an ungodly amount of time on in high school.
Hey, pal, I had
Um,
a Ted Bundy phase in middle school, so that's my shame.
Listen, sometimes you grow and you change. But it was so buck wild to hear her name drop a website that like I probably spent 2 hours a day on at least in high school. Like I was like,
We all have our demons.
we
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. I really
She was
don't know.
probably research. Oh, I don't want to put it on her, but she might have been researching for a book. She might have just been doing that for funsies.
That's so true.
That's the way it be.
That's just how it goes. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution is the investigative crew that reopened the case in 1988 after they published an article.
They probably felt
Um,
so good about that too when she got
oh,
charged. They were
probably.
like, "We are heroes, and I've done my job. I can die happy."
Honestly, to catch a serial killer that's been just out there for 7 years,
The fact that
just
she
because,
didn't have a repeat though is also like, okay. Like I understand like rehabilitation is a thing, and some like there's so many serial killers just never get caught because they'll just stop. But it is baffling that like she's had two previous husbands who divorced and left, but she didn't kill the kids then. But for whatever reason, Kenny is like the one thing that she was like, nope, you're perfect, you're too good for me, therefore this is your punishment. It's just like how does your brain latch to that degree,
Mm-hmm.
and why just him? Like
Yeah. That's a really good point. That's interesting. Especially if this other like person that she married, Carlos, had kids. I wonder if it's because they're not her kids. You know what I mean? That she
mm,
wouldn't have a repeat with his.
I feel like you'd have
yeah, I
more
feel like
reason to
there's a
kill not your
different. I
own
mean, if
kid.
we're going off of the you kill a kid every time there's a fight, so he'll come back. I don't know that he'd come back if you just murked one of his kids that you had
That's
nothing
fair.
to do with.
He'd be like, bye.
But you would
Yeah.
imagine, like, you would try to get pregnant, like, ASAP to, like, lock him in. I will
You'd
be
think-
honest, I'm not gonna name names, but I do have somebody in my life who had kids simply to keep her, at the time, husband around, and then the third one was like a, "This is my kid." The other two are kinda like yours, but this is my revenge baby. Like, I do know somebody who's done that. So
Revenge baby. Wow.
Great
That's
band
a
name.
new one.
Hate to see
Yeah.
it. You do.
yeah. So I do
Wow.
know, like, there are people out there that do have those thoughts. She's thriving now. He's gone out of the picture. He wasn't great either. Everyone's good, but that's, I don't know how, like, you
Wow.
exist with your kids just knowing that.
Yeah.
That's
That's wild.
I don't
Also, it doesn't make sense to me. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Of like, why wouldn't you just like go to marriage counseling with Kenny, instead of being like, you know what I'm gonna do? Every time you leave, I'm gonna kill our kids, and that's gonna make you want to love me. No, it's not. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
you mean, girl. That's gonna
Also,
make him
like,
hate your guts. Like,
the way
what?
Kenny so many times is like, "Girl, go to therapy," and she's like, "No." I was like, do you know how much of this book would just end if she just like went to therapy? Like, obviously, if the murders didn't happen, she went before, there wouldn't be a book. But it's just like, girl, just take his advice. He works with the doctor. Like, go to therapy. You
And
need
also,
it.
she doesn't do anything except bake cakes.
Yeah.
true.
I'm like, at this point,
Watch
go
game shows.
work at a fucking bakery or something. Like, if all you can do is cake, like, make it work for you, girl. I don't know.
Can I say also one thing that did kind of blow my mind in reading about her? Do you want to know how big she was?
Not 250 pounds.
Yeah, 250 pounds. But I like,
Yeah, that's
dude,
like
that's
nothing.
not. I'm sorry. Like, they act in this
That's not
book
that
like
big.
she is 7,800 pounds. Like, they
Keep in
act in
mind,
this book like
she
she
wasn't
is
even.
the hugest person to walk through the
Yeah,
door. And I'm like, I've been 215 before. Like,
yeah. I think she was 288 at her like highest.
yeah.
Towards like the
Hmm.
end, but like as a kid, you know she wasn't that big.
No.
It's like
No.
I don't get it. Like, just,
Yeah, 250. I saw a picture of her in one of the articles and I was like, I'm gonna be so honest with you, that straight up just looks like me. Like, like she doesn't.
yeah, yeah, and like
So it
height
was,
also. Like, I don't know how tall she is. Like,
I don't know either.
250 could be very nothing, or like she could be for something, and like that would show more. Like, I just
Yeah. Yeah.
this luckily
That
isn't a
was one of
book
the
that I'm
weirdest things
picturing,
reading
but
about. Like the true story actually is when they said that she was 250. And I was like, I guess they said it in the book, but I didn't remember reading
the
that in
back
the
of the
book.
book
And then like
says that she's 250.
seeing her, I was like,
Mhm.
that's just a lady. Like, I gotta be honest.
That's
And
a
I think it
woman.
does kind of show like the difference in like 1970s culture versus 2024 culture, that I was like, if I saw her walking down the street, I wouldn't bat an eye. I
Yeah,
would not think anything of her at all, frankly. Like, that is so wild to me.
yeah, but like the way that they talk about her, like she can't stand up on her own from a recliner. I'm just like, I think if you're 250, you could probably
You're,
get on a reclining chair, like
yeah,
relatively fine. I don't know
yeah,
if you
I
need
think
like
you
your
have, like,
child for
other
that.
health stuff going on if you can't get out of a chair
Yeah,
at 250, which
yeah,
like was kind of wild. Like, seeing that, I was like, ugh, okay.
yeah. The fat phobia is all like a lot in this book. Like it's a lot, and
Mhm.
it's like I couldn't stomach to say half of the things that are said. So like writing it into a book, I don't think I couldn't do it. Like I
Yeah,
just
no.
nope.
Yeah, let me put this down on paper and slap my name on the front. I was like, yeah, it couldn't be me, but go off.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Mexicans that way on in a book that will be around
No.
longer than me. Like, I don't want my name.
Yeah.
Associated with that, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The part that got me too is like when we're in Martha's head, especially when she gets like her bun cut off in class and stuff. And I was like, man, I feel for this girl. Like everybody is so awful to her. But then we get those scenes like with the storytelling scene where we see her and her mom, and then Martha and Arlene. And it's like the words she says are like verbatim what her mom said to her of like, shut up and like hitting her and you're
Mhm.
stupid and all that kind of shit. It's like, dude, you know how hurtful that was to you as a child. Why are you perpetuating that? Like, I
Yeah.
know that's all you know, but
Yeah,
you
if
know
like
how
you
hurtful
start
it
to
was.
believe that's love.
I also thought it was
Also-
so interesting to make Arlene thin.
Yeah.
And to like kind of play into like a little bit of the like, oh, is it jealousy? Is it just kind of the cycle of like the mother's thin and hates the daughter who's fat, who hates the daughter who's thin, like I thought that
And
was
Arlene
really
had
sick.
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Like,
her
she
mom was
wasn't allowed to
definitely
go. Yeah, like she wasn't allowed to go like leave to go play with her friends anywhere else. But she had friends. Even though one of them
Mhm.
was a little shit, but friends.
Yeah, that's
When
true.
you're 11, ain't that just the game?
No one's gonna be your friend because we're going to different high schools than you. Like, I remember my elementary school divided into 2 different middle schools, and it felt like that. Like, it was like, oh, we're going to different schools. We're never gonna see each other again. Like, I understood the mindset, but
To be fair, there's a decent chunk of my friends from elementary school who I did never see again after
Yeah, no, same.
elementary school.
half of us like reconvened in high school and then
Yeah.
never talked in high school. And you're like, I know you from a past life, and I'm not going down that road.
Yep.
Also, while Alea, you were talking, I just remembered that she marries a guy named Carlos at the end.
Mhm.
She knew a guy named Carlos because he had a brother Juan in school. Do we
Who
think
was super
that's the
mean to
same?
her.
Yeah,
I
do we
think
think that's the same Carlos? Because this author clearly didn't want 2 Kennys to be in the book at the same time.
yeah.
And that feels like very intentional to be like, I don't want to double up names.
Yeah.
So like, why would you pick the same name when
I
she
didn't
ends
think
up with
about that.
Arlen, who was also a bully to her in school
Uh-huh.
and has
Yeah.
Arlene with him?
Uh-huh.
So maybe
Dang.
that's why.
Also, what's up with that? Like the whole like calling him on the phone with the pizza thing, and then and he's been so mean to her.
Yeah,
What is
I want
happening
5
there?
pizzas and I want you to deliver them. It's like, okay, that's bold. Couldn't
Oh,
be
He's
me.
like,
Also, as
okay.
if he gets a choice, he's a 16-year-old pizza delivery driver. Like, what's he gonna do? Roll up to the boss and be like, I'm actually delivering those. Bye. Like, you work behind the counter. How would you get there?
Yeah. But also, like, I do relate because when I worked at Forever 21 when I was in college, like, people like younger than me would be like, "No, thank you, ma'am," and I'm like, "Don't call me ma'am. I am 17 years old. Like, please, don't do that. I'm 18. I am not an adult." So I did kind of get that part. I was like, "Me too."
Yeah, the man part I got. The him going over to Bang when he hates her and openly says, "Don't touch me" as a child. That
Yeah,
part I
like,
was like, "What?"
don't ever touch me again. Even if I'm dying and I crack my head open, my brains are spilling out. Don't ever touch me again.
You're like, "All right, baby
Honestly,
daddy, bring it in."
I think that was kind of more proof that she wasn't that big.
Yeah.
Because the type of shit that you'll say to be mean when you're 7 years old versus when you're 17 and you're like, this girl's trying to plow? All right. Like, hey,
Okay.
hey. I'm not doing nothing. I'm just delivering pizzas here.
Good point.
Kind of tracked for me. But it did take a little bit of being like, what the hell is going on?
Honestly, though, not as weird as her mom with the note, the like dirty, like filthy, dirty note. Girl, first of all, you're a horn dog. Second of all, don't pass your dirty, filthy notes in the middle of class in like a whole row of people.
Yeah. And like,
You know
if you,
everybody's initials in their class. What are you
yeah,
talking about?
if you know that there's a guy with the same exact initials that you're not interested
In
in,
between,
why would you make that decision? Like,
just put
you
his
wanna
real
go
first name on there.
What?
That would have
also, like,
changed your baby daddy right
what
there.
that is like the weirdest. Like, I know we've progressed and now like sexual harassment is just like Snapchat stories or whatever and just like messaging each other and like unsolicited dick pics. But like the way that she just sexually harasses the boy, like in detail, what I want to do to you in a letter, and was just like
Paper airplane.
so wild to
What?
me.
I have to say
No.
that the boldness of doing that really hit for me because one time in the 9th grade, I passed my best friend a note that there was a boy who sat in front of us, and his name, I'm just gonna full name this man. His name was Aiden Kutsarellis.
Oh,
Ooh.
okay.
All right.
I wrote a note that said Aiden Kutsarellis, more like Aiden Kutsarellis, and our teacher caught us and made me read that note out loud to the class, and I still think about it all the time. Sorry, Aiden. I hope you're well.
Richie, you and I are just like trauma. Just like, here's my life experiences. Welcome. That's so
I
funny.
love you, and that's so
When I was reading that scene, I was like, dude, I almost died from Aiden Kutsarellis. The concept of writing that note and then
Could you
somebody
imagine if the teacher found that and read it out loud in class? Oh my god. I would
I'd
off
simply
myself.
have to
They
die.
would,
I
though.
don't
No, there were so many times when I was
People would
reading this
get
book where I
fine.
was like, I would just end it. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not strong enough to go through what Martha went through. I would end it. Like, I'm not brave. I'm sorry.
No way.
That
Oh
was
my
my bad
God.
thought.
Of all the stuff in the book, the thing that got to Sam and me the most was like, what if they found the note? Somebody wants to vote down with this.
Also, dude, we don't know what happened to the note because Joey read it and he got it. Did he throw it away?
Oh, he probably kept that in his locker, being like, "This was my first
Yeah,
bang."
he framed
And
it
then
and put it on the wall.
framed it, but like took a Polaroid of her and put it up, and was like, "It was bad, but hey."
Here's the question though. Do you think that the other dude ever found out? Because he goes up to her and is like, you want to see what a real man is like? And it was like, so do you know? Do you
Yeah,
know about the
he
note? Do you know that it was meant for
yeah.
you? Or
Huh.
did you just hear that she's a bad lay and decided for some reason to approach
Yeah.
her on that
Yeah.
information and be like, let's try?
I know these characters were real
That was
bold. Like,
wild.
could you imagine walking up
They
in
were.
class while the teacher is talking, just be like, "Hey, babe, you want to fuck?" Like, couldn't be me. No. Although he was smooth, I'll say it. It
Yeah,
was smooth of him. I was
yeah.
like, "All right, go you." But
I love that
still
she was
bold.
like, he was so smooth,
Wow.
and then the sex was terrible. Like, it was so funny.
I'm actually asexual.
That
Also,
was so funny. It's so funny for her to be like, literally, they're both awful, so it really didn't even matter either way.
and then she becomes a sex
Oh,
worker.
girl.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, girl, you don't like sex." Like, that's what
Yeah,
you're
I was
telling
like,
me.
you hated that, and you
Honestly,
said, I'm gonna do that full time. What?
Yeah. I think
leave
she's able to
leave your job
associate.
at work, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's the move.
Yeah. Like, I think that I honestly not trying to like queer code everybody in the world, but like Beatrice probably asexual, and Martha for sure ain't straight. Or like at
For
least
sure.
The
bisexual.
Janie parts, I was like,
Yes.
I just want to see her. I just want to watch her. Everything's better when I can just watch Janie. Okay, hun.
well, she
Okay.
was like, I know that Janie hates me, and all I want is for Janie to be happy and for Janie to smile, and my day gets better when Janie smiles, even though she wishes I was dead. I was like, girl, listen, we've been there, but you have to
No.
stop. Like, we
The way
can't
that
do
she was
this.
like, if I can make one wish, it's that Janie will never have to cry again. I will cry for the both of us. I was broken. I was a mess on the floor. I was like, you're kidding me. Small child. She's so mean to you. But yeah. No, I get it.
And it really, the one day where Janie decides to be nice to her and then gets sick was so genuinely emotional because I even like as the reader was like, but why was she nice to her? Why? What changed? What happened?
What
What made
happened?
that one day the day? Like,
Yeah. No, that truly was just like, and then she clings to that forever. She's like, I hate her. I hate her. I'm like, you totally hate her.
okay.
Yeah, you're just definitely not pushing down any emotions at all because it's the 70s and you can't have those.
When you're down bad for a girl and you just stick a pine cone in her
Yeah.
mouth because you don't know what to do.
Brutally assault her and then murder your 4 kids about it. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
And that's
Kenny
the
was
gateway
right
of the
when he
70s.
was like, Kenny was like, therapy. Therapy.
Listen, Janie's storyline is such a small part of the book, but such a huge
everything.
part of the book to me. To me, Janie's the main character. But,
And we
no,
love her
but
for it.
like,
God, I felt so horrible. Like, God, the way that she is like the one person, like, is a small child and gets the most revenge you could possibly get out of this entire book. Like, Martha is evil, like the worst of the worst. But Janie suffers. And I was just like, God damn it.
well, and the fact that Janie's parents, like, when they abandon her after the Pinecone incident, like,
Why?
it is
Unreal.
so.
Let's
It's
just leave
such
her in
a
Virginia.
nice moment of being like, listen, it's difficult on both sides of the tracks because sure, your mom hates you and abuses you, and that's not good, but her parents only like her because she's thin and pretty and like gave up on her. Like, at least your parents are the worst. But you're allowed to sleep in the backyard. They didn't send you off to a monastery to die. They didn't tell you that they're just not gonna keep covering your medical bills. Like, it's such an interesting dynamic between the two of them. And then with all the queer coding that goes before it, you're like,
It's heartbreaking because you're just like, damn, that really just happened like that.
I also don't mean to be this guy, but with the queer coding, I could not help but think of like the how do I say this? The penetrative metaphor of the pine cone and using that as like a source of power. and like her like Janie like basically what is the word I'm trying to say? Defeminizing Martha with like cutting off her hair in
Oh
the
yeah,
classroom
Oh.
yeah.
and Martha turning around and responding in that particular way. I was like, I don't know that I have the intelligence to unpack that, but okay,
She's just
I'm
here. She's
seeing.
just like, I'm so free. Oh my god, my hair is gone. I feel like a new person. You're like, okay, Martha.
It's like, all right, butch icon of the century. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Like they would have been the cutest like butch and femme if this was modern day and everyone had therapy.
If this was modern day and Martha wasn't a murderer.
Yeah, like before that, because they would fall in love and be gay and like you know, we'll just never let them adopt because they'll be in therapy, so they'll be okay.
They'll be great.
Yeah. But also like the
Ugh.
repressed queer Catholic kid, like I know that she herself wasn't religious, but her grandparents were very, very religious and very
Right.
Catholic. And so like it makes sense that she was like, and we're mean to each other. And so I'm going to ruin her whole life. Just like, okay, girl. Yeah.
It reminds me of like a tweet I saw where this girl was like, back when I was gay in elementary school and I didn't know how to deal with it, I fell in love with this girl, but I didn't realize what it was, so I just wrote her a note that said, "Get out of my school." That's the Janie and Martha story, honestly.
That is the Janie and Martha story for real.
Ugh. I don't know. It's so wild. It's so wild how many characters they get you to care about so deeply when there's realistically not a whole lot of time with any of them except for Martha.
Yeah. And also like the way that it's written, like it's a very easy read. Like when you're like, oh, it's almost 300 pages, you're thinking of like a full dense novel, but it's broken up so easily that it's just easy to kind of fly through. Like I'm a slow reader. I have dyslexia. I read this in 2 sittings just fine.
Yeah, a lot of pages are rolling up looking like that.
Yeah, like it was just very easy to digest everything. And so like as we're switching and we're meeting like all of these different boys that are being mean to her, I'm still just like, wow, I know so much about everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I also did like the feeling of like growing up. What is my hair doing? The feeling of growing up and sort of like seeing the same faces from kindergarten to graduation. I loved that sort of like recurring energy of like, and we're this age, and they offhand mentioned this name, but now that we're 11, he's going to come back and do something, and now that we're 17, like I thought that was so well done and well put in place. And it honestly was kind of an awesome contrast to Arlene being like, I know one girl and that's it.
I know one girl and kind of another girl, but she's mean to me and we're not friends. And then like these 2 boys are mentioned once at lunch and then never seen or heard from again. You're like, okay, what was the point of them? Like, okay.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I thought it was so nice to see like, or so interesting to see how deeply Martha's life is fleshed out and how little they actually give to Arlene. Because it's not even just, I mean, yes, she died young, but like a lot of the stuff you know about Martha happens before she's 11.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
There's this
so I thought that
quote.
was really interesting.
Ultimately, that's what Martha's story is all about. Her urge for revenge and her inability to repress it. She shoves it down and down, but it comes up again. And so it's just like, yeah, no, this is a story about Martha. It's all about her. And Arlene is just kind of the vessel to tell us. And it's just all about trauma being passed down and how somebody that's a little weird because like the back of the book I think is like it's about a fat woman who is basically fat shamed for so long that this is the only way she can deal with it. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the right way to look at this. Be like, she's so fat and it's so hard to deal with, so she kills people. It's like, okay, that's a little bit of a leap, and like it feels kind of like it's taking some of the blame off of her. And I don't want to read a book where it's like, actually, the bad guy is kind of okay. It's like I want to feel sympathy for Martha, but I don't want to feel so much sympathy that it excuses her behavior. And the back of the book kind of felt like that, but I don't think the actual story itself necessarily does.
No.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's a hard sell, I think. I think that might be part of the reason why it's not getting like huge amounts of acclaim is because like this thin woman wrote a book about how fat women are murderers, and like you're like, oh, great.
When it's
Cool.
true crime based.
Realistically, so much of it is about trauma and the way that like it fundamentally shapes who you are. And it sort of uses fatness as a vessel for that. Much more than it's actually like a plot point, I'd say.
Yeah. I think it was just
Now, the other thing I thought was kind of interesting, like, it's not just that she's fat, like, her mom also says that she's done with a plate, like, every 5 minutes, and they just say that she's ugly. And then Arlene
even
is
though she's
like,
getting straight A's.
right, yeah, exactly. It's like you can't be smart and also be ugly and fat in the book. It's really strange
Yeah.
that people say it that way. But then Arlene says at one point that she's also ugly, like her mom.
Well, and
But she
Arlene
doesn't
does
say
get
that-
bullied because people say that she's like gross because they can like see her ribs and stuff.
Right, because she's like too skinny
Yeah.
or whatever. That one girl makes fun of her.
Oh my god, no, I loved that scene when she was like, you know what all the kids say about you? And she's like, actually, no, I don't want to know. And she's like, don't interrupt me. That's rude. What I was saying was, they all think, and she's like, no, I don't want to know what they think about me. And I was like, yes, Arlene. That was like one of my favorite Arlene moments. I was like, you tell her. And then push her. So maybe not the violent part, but like,
Arlene was such a strong character for being so like, I mean, inherently passive. You like, you know, when you start the book being like, well, I'm dead, like there's not a whole lot of space to grow from there. She was so consistently like on her shit. And I think another way that was just made her such a good narrator and such like a fun person to follow as all of this is going on.
yeah. I think also just like we mentioned earlier, how she's a kid who has a lot more life experience, but is still like a child mindset telling a childlike story. And it has that like fairy tale vibe of like, let me tell you about a story. And then it's a Grimm's fairy tale instead. But you can just tell like those childlike moments where they're saying like a bunch of times, just like, and then like, and then like, and like, and you're just like, yeah, no, this feels right. And then it makes it a little bit easier to digest because you're like, okay, a kid is telling me the story. It's not as gruesome as like a news reporter telling me what's happening.
True.
And so I think like having her tell the story rather than like being in, like if Martha was the perspective we were in, I wouldn't have liked the book. Like simply, it would have been a bad book at that point. I've been like, no, fuck you.
I also think the sort of war that you as the reader are having for like how much do I sympathize with Martha being reflected in the way Arlene talks about her, where sometimes she's like, well, it's my mom. And then sometimes she's like, and I hate her and I hope she dies. Like it was such like it was like a very nice way to kind of draw you in, where you're like, oh, it's okay that I'm like feeling all of these conflicting feelings because it's being presented to me in this way on purpose.
Yeah. Like Arlene
Like it
feels
is a child who is making excuses for her mom to a certain extent because it is her mom, but also is like, there's not a whole lot of excuse to make for this.
Yeah. It's like, you also killed my brother who I liked more than you. So
Yeah.
I'm mad at you, but like also I still want to somehow vie for your love and attention, even if it's not really like what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god, mother-daughter relationships explored in books is just so interesting and good. Because there's just so much there.
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting that Arlene never thinks that it's Sid's. Like, she knows for a fact that her mom killed him every single time. Like, she never doubts it. Interesting.
It's just so annoying. It's like if you and Kenny just sat down and talked, like went to get milkshakes and talked about the fact that he just died like that, maybe you two could have like made a plan. She does.
There's the point where she says to him, like, you know she's gonna kill me too, right? And then she's like, I don't know if he didn't hear me or if he was just pretending he didn't hear me.
Yeah, he starts talking about, oh yeah, you're making up some interesting points about life. Wow, really hard-hitting conversation right now. Don't want to talk about that. It's just like, yeah, I also would probably struggle with that. Like if I went to my stepdad being like, hey, So I think my mom's trying to get us. At 11 or younger, I don't think I'd have to be able to. I'd be so scared.
Yeah.
But also,
Yeah,
oh my
I
god,
think
Oh.
another example of Kenny being like, it's so clear you care about her, but like this is not enough. You realize that, right? Like you need to do more. You literally need to do more.
he's probably had like the most guilt of everyone, just being like, I could have done something, but I didn't know what to do. And times are so different now than they were back then. But like, I probably wouldn't also know how to handle something like that in the 70s because you don't have the same resources we do now. Things aren't talked about nearly as much as they are now. So I too probably be like, this is weird. Don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Especially if like you've never had a kid before and you're just like, okay, I love this child with all of my being, but I don't know how to be a parent.
Yeah.
Also, like, wasn't Martha like 23 or something during
Yeah.
the majority of the book?
Yeah.
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 That's
She
She read that.
in,
She was
I mean, in
25.
real life, she was very, very young when it happened. She was 22 when the first murder happened,
That's
and she
so wild.
was
Like in
what
her
if I knew how to
30s?
do math? She was 27 when the last murder happened.
God, so she was in her 30s when she got arrested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ugh.
Which also, like, I think they kind of they don't go super deep into it, but they do kind of touch on, and I think it's a really nice point, like the trauma of having 4 children by 3 different
Different people.
guys by the time you're 23.
Yeah.
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 Like,
And also, she'd already been divorced. She'd also had 3 husbands, too.
Yeah. And like not
Yeah.
not having the resources to have help because you don't have a job. Your mom kind of hates you and isn't really there, and like sometimes is there, but often just gone. You just don't have support around you, and you are just a toxic human because you've never been able to fully develop. But like, even though you become an adult at 18, like your brain is still figuring stuff out. Like she didn't even have like a fully developing brain when a lot of this was going down. And it's just like,
I
it's like,
mean,
yeah, it's still your fault. You should know better. But at the same time, like, it's so difficult.
if you think about it, so she was 27 when the last murder happened, and her kid at that point was 11, which means that she started having kids at
Oh, like
16,
16.
Yeah.
Yep.
which is a lot.
A lot, which is the same thing that happened to her mom's. Her mom was
Right.
having kids in high school, which when you have very religious parents, I'm surprised that I know that God, I hated him so much. The grandpa sucked. But when he's like, I wish I did the coat hanger myself, I was like,
Yes.
you can't
That
fucking
line.
But
That
also,
line
like,
took me.
I will say that I am a little surprised that it didn't go down that route, but obviously we wouldn't have a book if it did. But like, I am surprised that they let her keep the baby, being so religious.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I was just like, you.
But
Sir,
if you're
cannot
Catholic, that's
say
a
that.
sin, man.
Yeah.
Getting rid of it
Yeah.
is not, you can't.
Yeah. I it's just, but yeah, that line especially, I was just like, bruh, you can't. No.
That took me out. Richie, I have a question. I have a true crime question. Do you know if the pinecone, not necessarily pinecone, but like the attack on Janie, did that really happen?
Not a single mention. Not a
Okay.
singular mention of that happening. I have no idea if that's true.
Did Martha write a book? Did she be like, here's my life biography in a book? Or did like she do an interview ever?
No, to
It's
my
just
knowledge,
short stuff?
basically the only thing that they have from her is the recanted confession,
Okay.
which I looked for hours to see if I could find it.
I
To be
believe
honest with you, I was like, I gotta know, and no, I can't find anything. I couldn't even find,
Okay.
honestly, I couldn't even find the article that got
it.
her arrested. I found a bunch of articles talking about how the Atlanta Journal like did it, but could not find the article itself.
Interesting.
And like when I'm talking newspaper clippings, I'm talking like grainy pictures of 80s newspapers. I'm like zooming in on 800
Yeah.
times trying to like there is not a lot of information about this.
That's
Um
wild.
yeah. But I mean, listen, hey, there's still time. She's out. She could. I don't think she will, but she could.
I hope she doesn't. I hope she just dies peacefully and nobody's none the wiser and she just is gone. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
The 11-year-old's half brother, so like the first husband who is Arlene's dad. I should probably use the real name in this situation. Um so the real girl, her name is Jenny Ann Wright.
Hmm.
And her half brother said something to the effect, I'm going to see if I can find the quote, but basically when it was revealed that she might be like getting paroled, she let me find it. He said, come on, let me read it. Oh, he said, I want them to carry her body in a bag out of the prison, throw her in the woods, and catch her on fire. I wouldn't even waste the dirt.
Wow.
Wow.
Which is fair. I like.
Don't waste the dirt.
But yeah, it sounds like all of the husbands were present at the trial itself, as well as their kids from other relationships. If they had any. The third husband did not, but the first husband definitely did. And yeah, it does not sound like she'll be in contact with them, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
Dude, imagine going to a trial because you murdered people and all of your exes are there. How crazy is that? That's crazy to
In
me that they would all show
Goodfellas.
up and be like, all my boys hate Martha. Wow.
That's the no passing embarrassment cranked up.
Yeah.
Which should you rather have? Your teacher read out the incredibly explicit note that you wrote, or all of your ex-husbands show up to your murder trial?
All of my exes at the murder, because then I would be like, look at how well I've manipulated people into falling in love with me. Like, I'm charming. I'm attractive enough. People love me. Clearly, I couldn't do
I was
this.
like, what a slut.
I would literally be I would be so mentally ill. I'd be like, no, actually, clearly these people liked me. I couldn't do it. It couldn't be me. It was an accident.
Honestly, I would be
rolled up in the courtroom like she was that bitch, just like there they are.
Just
Like,
my
again, I'm
lineup.
done.
Oh my god. I would be the opposite. I would rather they read the dirty note that I wrote and just
No,
like
'cause
shame me for a day. Because like if I was in like a courtroom like that and all the
High
exes
schoolers
showed
would
up,
not
I would be
forget
like,
High
this is
schoolers won't
awful.
forget
I'd
that
be like, this
happened.
is awful.
If that was read about me in high school, they would never forget, and I would never live it down, and I wouldn't maybe not make it to college. Like, I genuinely was like, I don't think I can handle that embarrassment. I'd have to move out of the country.
I think I'd be like, this is awful, but like, oh well. But the courtroom thing, that would take me out. To have all the exes there, I'd be like, put me in the cell right now. I don't want to breathe their air.
I feel
know?
like you're like a little not focused on them though, is the thing for me. Is it's
Yeah.
like they're there, you're kind of like worrying about other stuff, and so you get to be like, I landed all those boys, but also the task
Yeah.
in
Or you
hand.
could be like
Whereas
Ted
the
Bundy of
note
it.
in class, that's just you and your red face as your teacher reads your sex fantasy out loud to the boy you like.
And everybody else, yeah.
There's no escape.
Yeah.
That's true.
But also, like, you could Ted Bundyify it and just be like, I'm so attractive and charming. And then you get more people to fall in love with you, and then suddenly you're a serial killer. But everyone is also, like, deeply in love with you and, like, want you to get out of jail and, like, not die. So, who's really winning? I just imagine, like, if I was to ever become a serial killer, I won't, don't worry. But like, yeah, play it up, get people to fall in love with you, and make everybody else question their sanity around them. Like, you're making history.
You're gaslighting the whole country.
The whole world.
Unreal.
Sam's gaslight gatekeep girl boss serial killer plan is gonna hit the shelves next year.
It's just a sequel to this.
Oh my god. No, Sam. It's the sequel to this, Sam.
Yeah. That's on my TBR this month.
Ugh.
Anyway,
Oh my god.
you can't read a book like this and not have a fucked up conversation somewhere along the way.
Honestly.
That's so true.
We need the
You
light.
know, Richie, this is such a good pick. I'm so glad that you were like, we should talk about this for book club.
Yeah.
Because you're right.
No, if you were like, Richie, you guys should read this book and then like not have a discussion about it, I would explode. I'd be like, I need to talk about it though. Like,
yeah.
I needed to decompress with you guys.
I think that's the thing is I read it and then I was like, well, now I'm just sitting here like vibrating. Like now I
Yeah.
just have the book in me and like I don't know what to do with that. And I
Yeah.
also really wanted because I feel like sometimes I don't know if you guys get like imposter syndrome over your own favorites. But like when I read a book
Mhm.
and I'm like, I think it's like a 5-star, like it's like one of my favorites. I'm like,
No,
I
never
need somebody
touch it
else to
again.
confirm that this is good, and I didn't just get humongously distracted by like one thing I like.
Yeah. No, I've been on like a fantasy romance kick lately, and like half the fantasy romance I pick up, I'm like 5 stars, and then I read everybody else's like 1-star review, and I'm like, no, you guys are all right. I don't know what happened. You're not
I feel like I
wrong.
blacked out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like
100%. You're like,
I
oh
like
yeah,
it,
I
but I
would
don't
give
know
it
why.
5 stars if it weren't for all the things I wasn't paying attention to because I was too distracted.
See, again, this is how it's like with the Bluest Eye. Like everyone's giving it 5 stars, and I'm sitting here like, I
Right.
don't think we read the same thing. I don't understand. I can't get it.
That's
Books
fair.
are so fun. Reading's a
Books
treat.
are so fun.
Oh, so true. I
Honestly, after reading this, I really want to read Verity with you guys because I think it would be so funny.
We can even
I'm
do like
actually incredibly down.
yeah, we can just do like a spin-off. Like it doesn't even have to be next year. We could just do like a bonus spin-off book club just to talk about it. Just a discussion.
The bonus, the Coho book club, where we just make it through
Unofficial.
as many Colleen Hoover books as we can stomach.
Ugh,
I would do it with you guys. Nobody else.
I'd be down.
I'd be down.
Ugh.
I'd be down.
I
I'll have to think about that.
I will also say, okay, not to be this guy, but a lot of the things, and I feel like this happens a lot. A book gets popular and people start like memeing on it, and that's fine. That's totally fair. But then you read it and you realize, like, in context, these things are not nearly as crazy as people are making them seem. And the thing that comes to mind for me in this one is y'all heard about the cow shit?
No.
There's a point in this book that people have been making fun of hardcore where he smears like manure on her and then she's like, I've never been so turned on in my life. And everybody was like, haha, hee hee, that's so stupid, which, like, to be fair, it is.
Yeah.
But in the context of the book, they're gardening together. And she's talking about how he's the only person who's ever like cared about this interest of hers, and he's the only person who's ever asked about it. And then they finish, and she's like, you should probably shower at my place because the fertilizer is like just manure. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, it is? That's crazy. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, and you just let me like get it all over myself? And she's like, yeah, what? I don't know, get good, stay clean.
She's
next
like, yeah,
time.
it's dirt. Like
And
we're
then
gardening. That happens.
he grabs some and he's like messing around and rubbing it on her arm. And she's writing in her diary later, and she's like, listen, I'm gonna say something that I am positive that nobody has ever said before, but during that moment I was the most turned on I've ever been in my life.
It's very
I
much
was
like
like,
if you're painting. Like
okay,
you're having a painting
Right.
date and then you're painting on each other.
yeah,
It's the same
yeah,
energy.
for sure.
And like
For sure.
Right.
They're not just
that's like
rolling around in a barn. Like it's
yeah. That's like the most
Right. He
normal
wasn't like,
book. I'm glad
so
that they
like
have
there's
some
a lot of
tools.
moments in this book where I'm like, people have been giving it mag shit. And some of it is stupid, but like a lot of moments people have been giving mag shit, and then I read the context and I'm like, oh, okay, that's not that crazy, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Like it's pretty
My
normal.
only thing with Coho is just like too young of readers picking it up and then like fantasizing and like romanticizing the bad behavior and toxic behaviors. And then they're like, but like it's kind of nice. And it's like I read that kind of stuff. Like I was on Tumblr way too young, and I was mentally ill so bad because of it. And like you just gotta protect people a little bit and be like, hey, kids, no.
I honestly, I feel like that's why this was the one where I was like, if I'm gonna be able to stomach any of them, it's actually going to be this one. Because like I tried to read Ugly Love, and that dude is awful. And I'm expected to believe that they just fall in love at the end. And I was like, I don't think I can do it. I think this love is a little too ugly for me. But this one, I'm like, it's about an abusive relationship. So when he does gross nasty things, I'm like, this is actually good foreshadowing. Like this actually is just like the plot. Like it's not
I think
something I'm expected to gloss over. It's something like she's using rom-com tropes that are gross to be like, see how much you guys just ignore this shit when you think he's the hot guy you're supposed to be into. And then 180 pages in, he slaps her across the face and she is like instantly like, oh no. Oh, those were all red flags. Oh, but it's fine. But it's fine. And like, it's actually really, I hate to say it. It's actually really interesting. I think it's like the abuse storyline in this is pretty well done so far.
Yeah.
I am
I think
actually
like
really enjoying it.
the conversations you can have with it and the way that like it dives into things could be interesting and well done. I think it's just picked up right by the wrong people and taken the wrong way. Which, always happens. I know that the movie goes an interesting path with how they decided to direct it. And then I think there's a sequel to it.
There is a sequel.
Trying to co-parent or something.
It's called It Starts With Us. I don't know anything about it.
Okay. Yeah,
I've seen that.
I don't know if it's like they get a second chance at romance type of thing, or if it's just like a continuation. Like I'm not sure what the purpose of that book was. And so it's interesting seeing so many people flock to the book because of the movies out. And I'm just like, okay, so they're definitely going to end up doing the second movie. And I don't know how that's supposed to go now.
Well, I mean, another part of the reason why I'm reading it is because like this press tour has been so much and so bad, but like well and truly just the worst press tour for any movie I've ever seen in my life. It is so buck wild. And so I was like, well, I have to see the movie because this is like, I don't know that any of them have read a book, let alone the book at this point. Like, it is so stupid, everything that they're saying. And so I was like, well, I gotta know. So we'll see.
Richie had the FOMO.
So Richie, you're gonna make a YouTube channel, you're gonna review the book, and then you're gonna review the movie and have like a full discussion about it because I want to know what you think. You can do it on this channel. I'm sure it'll be fine. You can just take over.
It'll be fine. The fact that Richie doesn't have their own YouTube channel is really, that's criminal.
It hurts me every time.
I don't know how to edit. I simply don't have the skills to pay those bills. And like, I also love to sleep so much. I really do. I like that's so dumb. Fair. But I've seen the nights that Alea has pulled.
I do. I had to stay up
till 4 editing the new thing, and I'm like, it could not be me.
That was basically me yesterday. It was like filmed a whole video, filmed more for that video, edited the whole video, and then started reading this directly after. And I was up until like 1 a.m. Just like, all right, gotta do this.
And like, me too. I love y'all's channels. I watch all your stuff, but
we just need to have you on significantly more. We just need to do like bi-weekly chit chat update of like, what are we reading lately? What are we thinking? Because Richie, I love your thoughts on everything.
Yeah, you know what we should do? I've been wanting to do like some spooky sprints in October. Not the first week of October, because I'm going to be seeing you in person.
Richie, the way it's the month of us. The fact that I'm going to visit you and then you're immediately flipping around and coming to visit me is insane.
I'll enjoy my time over here alone. Thanks, guys. It's fine. I get it. I'm new to the friendship, but
Sam, you ever want to see the Mall of America? Come hit me up. I'm not just here.
But we should do sprints. We should do reading sprints in October.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And we'll just talk the whole time and probably not actually get much reading done, but
that's fine. That's what sprints are.
I was completely alone on my sprints yesterday. I did maybe like 5 to 8 minutes of like talking in between, and I was like, and we're going back into a sprint because I don't know what to say. I don't know how to talk to myself alone. Like, there's people in the comments, but like, I don't.
I get that.
Okay, I do have to say, I just am saying things on the internet, huh? I have a friend, and he's so darling, but he also talks like he's in a full rom-com like 98% of the time, and I love that for him. I really do, because I do the same thing. So like we both are just there like, hey, you bring so much light to my life. Anyway, see you later, dude.
Okay, I'm a rave girl, and so like we're all about like the plur and stuff. We do the same stuff. Like we go to a music festival, meet someone for the first time, we're like, you are the most beautiful soul I have ever met. I will never see you again.
He goes to raves, so you're absolutely clocking him.
I know my people.
But my birthday is coming up. And he was like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I just want to go do something. I don't know, like figure it out. I'm not.
Get
I
out of
don't
the
care."
house.
And he was like, "Okay, yeah. So we need it to be something. You need to be outside for part of it because you like doing that, and then we need to have like a decent amount of people, but not too many people because when you have too many people, you like get into a funk after a couple hours, and I don't want you to have to like go through that and have to pull yourself out of it. So like, we can just have it be like a smaller thing." And I stopped him and I was like, "Have I ever said that out loud?"
That's
Or
the
like what?
bestest pride you could ever have. Oh my god.
Well, and then he looked at me and he was like, "Well, I'm bad with memory stuff sometimes, but I pay attention." And I was like, "All right, I'm writing that into my next book, and you don't have a say at this point." What are
He's
you
a king.
talking about? So
That's so
at some point
sweet.
in October, I'm doing
Oh.
something for my birthday, and if you're there, I'm gonna tell him we gotta leave space for Leah and Peyton for whatever
You
it
have
is
to
we're
kick
doing. 'Cause I
two
don't know
people
what.
on your invitee list because I'm bringing a +2. So sorry to your list.
Yes. We're all going to the surprise birthday party with not too many people and you know what?
Yay.
I do get overwhelmed in crowds after a couple hours.
Yeah.
We went
No,
to the fair together, like a bunch of us, and we spent like 7 hours there, and it was so fun. After hour 3, I was like,
yeah.
like
No,
I
you're dead
was
by the end and
fully
you need to sleep
breaking
for
out
2
in
days.
hives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my energy, like, I can do crowds at like a rave, music festivals,
Mhm.
but like I'm preparing for it. Mentally, I'm ready for that energy. I'm ready for a 5-day rave. And then you're not gonna see me for 3 weeks afterwards. Like I'm
Yeah.
off this planet. Like I'm
Yeah.
gone.
For the past 2 weeks, every weekend on Saturday I've done D&D, and on Sunday, the first week I went to the fair, and the second week I went to the Renaissance Festival, and so I have just been like people
Yeah.
for the past like month.
But also thriving. That sounds so fun.
So delightful.
Yeah.
I'm having such a good time. I saw a guy make a handmade marble that I have on a little chain here, so that's really cool. Delightful. It turns out crowds are too much at this point. I need to not talk to people for like a few weeks.
That's so
But
fair.
that's okay.
Yeah, no, I'm always like, oh man, I really want to find a crowd to like play D&D with, and I want to like have friends that I can go and do stuff with. And then like I think about it for like more than 3 seconds, and I'm like, oh god, that sounds like so much work. When I can instead just talk to a camera or get on sprints and like chat with my friends, like that's fine.
It has been so fun. Multiple of us in the group though have talked to each other and been like, my social calendar has not been like this since like high school. Like I am too old for
Yeah.
this shit. We hang out so much. Which is great. Good problem to have. I'm not pressed about
I
it.
love that for you.
I love that for you too. People are always like, "What did you do this weekend?" And I'm like, I'm gonna be real. I rotted in bed with my cat and I read 3
Yeah.
books.
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
really,
So,
like
I didn't want to see nobody.
yeah. It's like if I don't have
You're getting
plans
more reading done.
yeah, like if I don't have plans, like the raves are like the only thing I'll leave my house. And that's maybe like once every couple of months. It's a very like small thing, but it's truly just like, Sam, how was your weekend? And I'm like, well, I did YouTube stuff like the whole time. And I think I read a book.
I love
Yeah.
that though. See, and I feel like everybody's always like the grass is always greener because I'm having a very good time hanging out with my friends, but then I look at like people like y'all and I'm like, they're getting so much done. Like
They're productive
so
and reading.
unproductive.
They haven't talked to another human in 3 days, but
Yeah.
But
they've
they know
done
how to
stuff.
edit. So like what am I doing?
Honestly,
it's so
sometimes
easy.
it's like, yeah, sometimes it's like midnight and I'm like, I need to get out of this, like, I need to be productive mindset. You know what I mean? You're like, I need to chill the fuck out. My mom's like, have you slept? And I'm like, dead ass no. Like, I get
No.
home from work and I'm like, man, I don't want to do any more like work shit. I want to do like work for me on YouTube stuff, you know? And then I'm like, man, I haven't slept.
Yeah.
I feel like I got eaten alive by raccoons. I'm not even a human. I'm a husk.
The fact that you are doing YouTube stuff at all this month is insane.
The fact that I'm gonna put up so many videos, Sam, I'm getting married in 2 weeks. I'm not even kidding you.
Oh.
2 Saturdays from now is my wedding.
Yeah.
Working full time and planning a wedding and doing YouTube and hosting a book club is too many things.
And
I
you have
was-
to read books for said book club and YouTube channel where like it's not
Yeah.
just like it's one thing if you meet someone with a YouTube channel and they're like, oh, I talk about movies or I do this or that. It's like, okay, congratulations. You watched a movie for maybe 2 hours and then made a video on it that also took you another probably like 2-3 hours. I'm so happy for you. I had to read a book and that took me 13 hours. And then I had to edit
like,
a video for
Yeah.
3 hours.
Dude, yeah, you're like, I've been making a month-long reading vlog, and I have 2 hours of raw footage, and I feel like I'm gonna kill myself.
No, I've been there too many times where it's like, oh no, I need to stop talking.
Yes, I've been there so many times. Oh my god. Yeah, and I'm also raising a velociraptor in my house with this
Oh, but the
cat.
cutest one you've ever did see.
So true.
Damn, he bit me in the arm yesterday, and then it like in my bicep, and I had a sweater on, and I like pushed him off because he was like this,
Yeah.
and one of his teeth was just left behind in my sweater because he's teething.
Oh
Cat molar. I was like, "Are you a great white shark? Why are your teeth in my clothes?" What is
no.
happening?
So you need
Oh
to
my
go to the
god.
beach, get some sand, put some ocean water, and then just let cat do it.
Yes. I literally texted my mom a picture. I was like, "Look at this nasty bloody tooth from my cat," and she was like, "Is he okay?" I was like, "Yeah, he's like a baby. They just fall out." The internet said it's normal. I don't know.
Yeah, they do it with their claws
It's
too. Like their claws will shed, and you'll just like find pieces of their claws around, and you're like, "That? Are you good? Are you okay?"
Are you a
So it's the
snake?
worst when you step on one and you're like, cool, 6, you're fighting for my life every single moment of every single day. I'm never safe. You're in the other room and I'm still getting stabbed right now.
Yeah, no, my dog moved, and my cat like jumped over me, but decided it was nice to use me as like the launch point. I was just like,
Great.
okay, ow, cool, thank you, great, I love this.
Yeah.
My cat bit me super hard yesterday, but in her defense, I was waking up and didn't realize she was right next to me, so I rolled over directly on top of her, and she was like, I was like, all right, that's fair, but I'm sorry, please.
See, you tried to be Martha, and your cat wasn't having it.
She's
That's
too
fair.
bad of a bitch for that.
That was the not to bring it back to the book. I'm so sorry, but like the way that Arlene was paralyzed and couldn't fight back hurt me. I was like, at least like with the small kids, like they were trying, and that also hurts me in a very different way. But like just being so helpless and defenseless in that moment, I was just like, this is
Mhm.
worse. I think.
Well,
The
the
bag
fact
over
that
her
for
head.
like
feeling like
paragraphs
all she
before it, she
had.
was like, I wish she'd just do it.
Yeah, no, the pillow when she was like, "Take
Mhm.
me," and she said, "Fuck you," and takes the pillow and leaves, and I'm like, what? You attempted to kill your child, and your child said, "Please, bet," and you said, "Actually, no, fuck you." Like that was a wild sequence.
It's such like a peak like portrayal of control though, where it's like I want to hurt you, but if you want it, I don't want to
Yeah.
anymore. Like
Right.
I'm not doing this for any other reason than to like be better than you, and so if you have any form of consent, it's not fun for me anymore. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
so gross.
Fuck that. Also, okay, at the end it got me when Kenny left because I was like, you know that nobody else is going to take care of Arlene if you leave. So what are you doing? What do you mean you walked out the door? Who's going to give this girl a bath?
Yeah, like you
Say the
clean
word.
her, you change her diaper every morning, and you're just gonna leave.
Dip. Yeah, what?
But like, it's too hard to take her because she's paralyzed. It's like you got her there once. You got to figure it
It's
out.
easier. It's easier. I just flabbergasted by that. And the fact that her mom never even goes into her room to talk to her. She's just in the living room, like talking to the ghost of her dead brother. What is wrong with you?
Oh my god, the part where she Martha's in jail and like Arlene is like watching and she's like, "I miss my daughter, Susie Ann." And Arlene's like, "Oh," because she thought that she
Arlene's
was
like,
remembering
okay.
her while she was there. Oh my god, I was so mad. I was like, that hurts. And I love the part in the beginning when she's like, she can't see me or feel me or hear me, but I think she can taste me sometimes. And I taste bad
Yeah.
in her mouth. And I'm like, okay.
Go off, I guess. I love the moment where she does realize that Arlene is there. And she's like, "No, my
Mhm.
kid's there. No,
No,
she's right
yeah.
there." And it's such a weird moment where you're like, "Oh, is she like aware the whole time? Like, is she aware every time, or is this shit like, oh?"
Yeah.
So
and the
good.
cellmate's like, nope, it's just you and me, babes. Just us. And you're like, pulling on very different wavelengths right now. You guys are not connecting like you think you are.
The fact that Martha tries to like mother the cellmate, and it's like the first time you see her show like any maternal instinct at all.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
It's so much.
Yeah, and just like the way that she's like, I had a daughter once, and like the cellmate's like, yeah, no, I have a kid out there too. And Martha's just not listening to her at all. And it's like, no, she's here with us. And you're just like, Martha, where are you going? Like, what is happening to you? Like, and then like there was a moment when she was talking to a psychiatrist, but we don't get to really see it. But I think the psychiatrist was like, you're mentally sound or something like that. And I was just like, I don't think she is. I don't think she's okay at all.
You're like mentally sound. Have you seen the way she makes cakes? Just sit and watch that for a minute and tell me that again. What? That was unreal.
That is one thing I will say is kind of funny, is that cakes in this universe seem to bake in 3 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's got an easy bake oven and it's quick. Like it's nothing.
You're
right, you should say it. Oh my god.
The concept of it being an easy bake oven. No wonder this frosting's green and nasty as hell. Of course, it's an easy bake oven. Oh, that's so much. I loved, speaking of cakes, the nightmare that Martha has where she gets all the cakes and then she's drowning, where she like imagines her birthday party.
That was
love
wild.
that scene. So good.
That felt so Alice in Wonderland to me.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, okay, she's okay. Yeah. I have all these friends, but they're not real, and I have all these cakes, but I gotta get spoons to share with my friends, and then you die? I probably wouldn't make friends outside either.
This is one of those books that I read and was like, I hope that no one ever tries to make this into a movie.
No, I don't think it would translate well.
I need that to not happen.
It's kind of like The Lovely Bones. Where like you're getting the dead girl's perspective the whole time. And beautiful movie. So sad. But like I don't think people can recreate that in this.
The movie's
case.
good. The movie does not hit the way the book does.
Yeah. It's just like I don't think you can do it the same. Because you're not gonna and also like watching kids pick on each other on the playground's not gonna hit the same as this book. Like sorry.
The way the fact of the matter is ghost children are like corny in movies. Like there's no way to do it and have it not be corny as hell. And so like you can't really do it. Like you just can't.
Yeah. There's a level of like, oh, it's not serious.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, that's dark, but
Speaking of book to movies though, y'all read Uglies when you were a kid?
I didn't, but I know what it is.
I watched Gary read the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm very like, I know everything that happens, but I didn't read it.
I loved those books as a kid. So me and Netflix are beefing right now because why in 2024 is Joey King and the dude from Outer Banks starring in the new movie adaptation of Uglies? Why is this happening to me right now?
Why?
Just a personal attack against me, I think. I think Netflix got my number and they were like, we're gonna ruin this girl's whole life. Like, they were just not having it.
They were like, oh, Richie's having a good year? Not anymore.
Yeah, no, they were like, we're done with that. All right. It's almost fall. Time for that seasonal depression to kick in a little early. Here's an Uglies movie for you.
Why now? That's really my question.
That's
why did you do this shit?
It feels like they're like the Hunger Games has ended. The new one just came out. That's got so much hype. Netflix is like, we need a dystopian to get the girlies to come watch more Netflix because the reality shows aren't hitting anymore.
Real. I see that, but it's like I don't frankly, I don't believe there hasn't been a dystopia written since Uglies came out in 2000. Like, I don't believe you. You know what
I
I
will
mean?
say, I recently read one and it was really bad. So maybe they're just not good. Because I read Blood Circus, and it's
Oh, okay.
like a Hunger Games thing, and it's bad. It was not good. But it's very much like not good dystopian. So maybe that's why.
I just feel like it's very weird to pick something from that specific era because it's like, okay, I read those as a kid. I'm in my late 20s now. So you have two options. You can either make a YA movie for this YA book that's going to feel little kiddish and weird to me and I'm not going to like it, or you can make a movie for me, someone who actually read the books while growing up, and then it's like this weird super mature adult movie for this YA book. So now the kids who it actually was written for, like any new kid who picks up Uglies can't watch this R-rated Uglies movie.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's like pick something from the 70s. Pick something from where it's like it doesn't matter and you can just have a new generation like discover it as opposed to like I'm not even 30 yet. Stop mining my childhood for nostalgia bait. Like this
It's
is
kind
so
of like how
weird.
Is it Amazon Prime? They're doing like an animated version of Midnight Sun, the Twilight book in Edward's perspective, but they're making it animated.
Yeah.
Like, who signed off on? Who thought that was the right idea? They're like, let's make a Twilight show. It's like, no, the movies are fine, babe. Don't touch. We've done it.
Yeah.
We're over that time.
I watched New Moon and Eclipse last night.
The way to my heart. I love those. Those are my comfort movies.
The friend, the book club friend who I love so dearly, it's her birthday. That's what she wanted to do was have a board game night, and Twilight was on in the background.
Well, that's my favorite night.
And we
What board
watched. Oh,
game?
it was fantastic. It was so fun. But we watched New Moon and Eclipse, and honestly, those movies still slap. Like I was watching them, and I was like,
Yeah. New Moon's my
we
favorite.
do need to talk about Stephanie Meyer and like the damages that she has done to like actual Native American people in general, and like oof, that sucks. In terms of movie making, those movies are not as bad as people make them out to be. The fight choreography is fun. The soundtracks are absolutely slapping.
They bang.
They're great. Like,
oh,
I had a really good
no,
time.
New Moon is my favorite. Out of all the Twilight movies, New Moon's my favorite.
So
I feel like I actually am like, oh, these are people, not random little characters. These are like real people.
The way I was like slapping one of the dudes at the party, I was like, "You have to shut up. We're about to get to the scene where she spins around in the chair and it says all the ones. You have to
It's so
stop talking."
good. That's art.
It is. It's so,
Art.
and he watched it and he was like, "Yeah, that was pretty cool." And I was like, "I know."
Thank you. I think somebody counted how many lamps were in her bedroom, and it was like 30 or something ridiculous. So next time you watch the Twilight movies, keep a lookout for all the lamps. It's so funny.
I love that.
It's
Take a
just,
drink every time you see a lamp in Bella's bedroom.
Totally. I love those movies. Those are my like Austin's out of town, and I'm gonna throw something on the TV while I do other activities. It's like always the Twilight movies. They're just like I'll just binge them in a weekend.
I haven't seen them. It's been a few years. A few years ago, a friend wanted to do a rewatch, so I rewatched the entire series, and I was like, "All right, yeah, this is okay." But then I don't know, something about last night, like, why? Honestly, I think they're very good in the background movies. Like in the background, they're delightful. When you're sitting there and you're like focusing in on them, you're like,
you're questioning too many things. You're like you're making really weird decisions.
But it was a great time. I don't think we need a show. I think they're too recent. They can't again, those were coming out when I was in high school. I'm not that old. Like I think we're good for a couple years.
Yeah. Like we've still got like the actors are still doing their thing. Like we're not far removed.
The actors are like 5 years older than me. Like they're not Robert Pattinson just had his first baby. Like give it a second.
Good for him.
Good for him. Good for him. And he had the baby with a girl from the Daisy Jones and the Six adaptation. She's done other stuff too.
But I haven't seen that yet. I don't know if I want to. I don't like the author.
Yeah?
Yeah, she writes people of color in a really weird way.
That's fair.
Like the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, like the twist reveal makes me feel icky. So I'm just like, no, I don't want to
Yeah.
support that financially.
Yeah, that's fair. I read that one, and I think I remember basically being like, it was better than I thought it was going to be, but I like don't know that I'd ever read it again. But I did like Daisy Jones and the Six, maybe just because I really love Fleetwood Mac. But I
Yeah,
do
no, that's the
remember
thing. Like,
liking
I
that
think
one.
I would love it. It's just like, do I want to be like reviewing the author as much?
Fair.
But
Mhm.
if I read the book, I'll never say it out loud.
You will never know if Sam
no,
has
no, no.
read Daisy
Work
Jones and the
secret.
Six.
Just don't look at my
That's for
Goodreads.
us.
I do track all of my books in Goodreads, so sorry.
So I am actually like big into movies, and Letterboxd, I track all my stuff on there, and sometimes I'll watch a movie and be like, do I want to publicly say that I watched
Yeah.
this thing?
Yeah. For whatever reason, books I feel less shame about. Like, I'll read like the craziest, most wild book, and I'm like, nice. Like, put it in the arsenal. But movies, it's like, no, we don't need to discuss that ever happened.
I watched a Roman Polanski movie like a few months ago, and I genuinely, it was like a week before I was like, I'm gonna admit that I watched Rosemary's Baby. I did it. All right.
Yeah.
So, that's my shame this year.
No, I feel that. I watch an unhealthy amount of YouTube. It's
Mhm.
baffling that I can have a full-time job and then do YouTube on the side, read books, and then like somehow watch 10 hours of YouTube a day. Like, I don't know how my brain does it. It doesn't make any sense. It's a problem. But I've been watching a lot of like movie commentators who are watching bad Christian movies lately, and that's like my current guilty pleasure, where I'm just like, this is awful, and I'm thriving.
Have you seen the Christian Bachelor show on YouTube?
Mm-mm.
Peyton and I watched that one time. I'm not okay about it.
The Christian Bachelor show?
Yes, they made like a little mini season of like The Bachelor, but it's all just a bunch of like really awkward Christian kids. Oh, it's so funny, but it's so bad.
Okay.
It's horrible.
I mean,
Anyways,
it's
that's a fun
probably like
weird
right
rabbit
there
hole.
with. It's probably right there next to like MILF Manor. So like, I don't know. Reality TV show doesn't surprise me anymore.
Alea, I don't know. If you know that the only way to watch F Boy Island season 3 is to get the CW channel, like to pay money for the CW channel.
You know, that's actually untrue, I'll have you know, because I just watched it during my bachelorette party and I was deep diving on the internet and I found a website where it has all of the episodes from all of the seasons and it's free and I have it bookmarked on my computer, I'll have you
Okay.
know.
That that's
I
right.
also illegally watched
I will.
Naruto on other places. Like, you can get Hulu and watch Naruto, or you can get a really weird website that just has all 500 plus episodes. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not against sailing the seven seas by any stretch of the imagination. I just frankly did not think that F Boy Island was going to be a popular enough property that I was going to find my success with that one in particular. But I do need to watch it because we watched it together, me and Alea, 2 years ago? We watched season
Yes.
2. And our favorite boy apparently came back as an F boy on season 3, and I was like, well, I have to know now.
Okay, I'll have you know, I forced Noelle, my other friend, my maid of honor, to watch the show with me so that the three of us could talk about it at the wedding because this is the level I'm on. And okay, I made Noelle watch the beginning. I can't remember what we watched. I think it was season 3. We didn't get all the way through, but they don't just bring back what's his face. They bring back Mercedes, who's awful, and the Beast from the East guy. Oh my God, what's his name? You know exactly what.
Don't worry, y'all.
I was
At this
on the
point, I'm
floor.
gonna find the show and I'm going to watch it.
Watch it.
Because I
But
need to
no,
know what
okay,
you're
listen,
talking
F
about.
Boy Island is the one reality show that I will like hardcore
It's
like
so
go to
good.
bat for. It is so buck wild and funny, and season 2 of F Boy Island is my favorite season of reality television across the board.
Okay. See, sometimes like I don't watch a lot of reality TV, and then suddenly I'm like, wow, books suck right now, and then I'll turn to reality TV for a while. And it's mostly been like Too Hot to Handle, or the 2 other popular Netflix ones that I watched.
Yeah.
It's just like, I need not those people, because it's the same people every time. And I'm getting sick of the like Netflix stars. I'm just like, you guys need to chill. I don't understand why they get so famous.
F-Boy Island season 2 is
Okay.
so good.
I
and
am
are you
the
sending
link.
us a link there, brother?
The link is in the chat.
Let me get out of full screen here.
It has all the seasons.
I love that you put it in like the chat rather than the private chat too. Like, that's queen behavior.
That's how good it is.
Everybody can enjoy.
Okay, bookmarking that.
Yeah, just
For the girly.
Back to later.
There we go.
See, I need things to do because this month it's like, ooh, September, normal stuff. But I'm also like preparing to do Booktober, where I upload a video every day in the month of October.
Oh my god.
So I need something in October to like get my mind off of like books, because I'm caught up on all of my Dropout TV stuff. And so I need something.
You're so real for that. You're so real for that. I still haven't watched Never Stop Blowing Up.
I really loved it. I don't think I've laughed so hard in a while. Like, that it was really funny. It's just 10 episodes, which makes it better. But yeah, it ends really well. It's hilarious. The cast is just so funny because it's just straight improv. Like, Brendan Lee Mulligan was like, I'm not gonna have rules. You're in an action movie, babe. Improv away. Like, you just do it. It was just, so good. So good. But they're traveling. I don't know if they still are traveling, but they just released the Time Quaggle or something like that. That was so funny. I'm so happy about it. And I think we're getting another one in December. So I'm thriving in this economy of Dropout stuff.
That's what you watch. F-Boy Island season 2. I'll watch Never Stop Blowing Up. And then when we meet for our Verity book club,
Perfect.
Yes. Yes. Okay, also, I need to finish watching season 3 of F-Boy Island, because when they brought those 3 men back, I was in a hotel bed eating taffy, and I just about died on the floor. I'm going to be honest. I was like, the beast from the east. Oh my god. Noah was like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not okay.
Sam, here's the thing, is that there are so like in F-Boy Island, there are 24 men. Half of them are self-identified nice guys, and half of them are self-identified F-boys. And there are 3 women. They have to choose between all of these men, and they're hoping they don't get an F-boy, right? And our favorite guy last in season 2. Listen,
no, because you have to split money.
Gotcha. Money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. It's not for love. It's for $100,000.
Yes,
but
money, different decisions.
But in season 2, they bring on these 2 men who are both vying for one of the girls' hearts, and one of them is named Mercedes, and he's evil, and one of them is named Benedict, and he's a saint, and he's weird, and he's goofy, and he's wonderful, and I like immediately was like, that's my boy, that's my guy, that's my boy. Okay. And apparently they have brought Benedict back in season 3, but he's no longer a nice guy. He's an F-boy now. So what happened to my man?
Corrupted.
I
do think that's the nice guy pipeline, though. Like, you're a nice guy, and then you're a F-boy, and then you're doomed for a life of Martha.
Yeah, then you go to therapy, and you get better.
I hope.
Fingers crossed. Benedict, there is still time. Benedict, if you're watching this, there's still
time. Love you.
If he's watching this, I would rather be dead.
I'm so happy.
Which would you rather have? Your teacher read a note out loud in class, or Benedict Pussy from F-Boy Island?
No, truly. Thank you so much for watching 2 hours of this discussion just to get to this point.
Oh my god.
And I still don't know.
I still would rather have the teacher read the dirty note than have Benedict see this live.
No!
That's the level I'm on.
You
I mean
don't
this in the
understand
nicest way
what
possible. Benedict Polizzi does not give a flat fuck if we elect him on
That's true.
like he does not care. This would affect him zero.
Oh,
He's on
that's
red
so
carpets
funny.
yelling at Angelica Houston at this point.
Yeah, no, like they're thriving. They're in a different league at this point. They've made their millions. That's so funny.
Also, I have to
Alea,
say,
you just
one of the
like
girls.
is embarrassment kink like your thing? Like, do you just like being humiliated?
No.
What's up?
No, I think for
Why?
me, the note thing in class is like, I don't know. It's like, okay,
I just want
it's gonna be
everyone to know
embarrassing.
that.
It's gonna be embarrassing, and then I'm not gonna care because all the people in my class I play don't give a shit anyways. And so it's like a short period of humiliation where you're like, that was fucking awkward.
I will say,
That's
like,
my
I am ragging on you, but I did read Shrek Smut like live on YouTube for everybody to watch and see.
See, I didn't do that, so
But I wasn't like reading out too many passages. Like it was still like tame. That note would not be tame.
it was not tame, Sam. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. I don't believe you.
The way I want to
I'm
find
trustworthy.
this note in this book right now and like I'm so sure it's not anywhere near as explicit as we think it's as we've made it out to be.
It doesn't say.
People are gonna read this book and be like, I gotta get to the bone down note, and then it's gonna be like, I
It
want to
doesn't
fuck you, kind of.
say.
It's really
It
more
just
just like
says,
theoretically what it could maybe be like. It's not even like
yeah.
explicit detail of the note. I think like the bleachers was more explicit.
Yeah. Also, why are they
I
boning
love
under
this
these
book.
nasty, crusty ass bleachers?
You never
Yeah,
been
no,
a high
That's
schooler?
disgusting.
No, yeah, we
Like-
didn't do that in my high school. Thank God.
We didn't either.
Okay, here's the thing. Our bleachers, you in like the gym, you couldn't get under, and the bleachers outside faced an elementary school, so you just wouldn't go under there. Like it's just not a place for high schoolers, because then you're talking to children, and it's weird because they do hang out by the fence.
That's actually so fair.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But yeah, no, having
I
like
guess we couldn't get under the bleachers at our high school either.
yeah, but having like a semen crusted floor under the
The
bleachers,
janitor
because
should be fired on the spot.
he's just like,
That's what.
yeah, I think I'm stepping on a condom and I don't want to look. It's like, yeah, that's so fair, pal.
Ew. You know what's so funny though is that guy was more prepared than him. That's the sad part. Our boy
Granted,
Joey
he was
didn't
going
have
to make
nothing.
he was going to make a baby, so like he didn't need to be prepared. There was no thoughts that he needed to have. Oh.
I do think it's very funny how so disinterested in the sex part of it she like the fact that she's like, sure, I'll get down in these nasty cum crusted bleachers if it means I get a baby at the end of it, and I don't like you and I don't care about you, but you are here and you do have a dick and that's what I need. Like
Yeah.
her reaction to it was very ace coded, but also just like such a weird choice for her to then not want that kid at all.
Yeah,
Yes.
like it's truly wild to be like, where has society, like it doesn't ever really properly explain either of like how did society teach you that? Yes, I understand back in the day, like definitely it was like, you're a woman, ooh, you have no existence except for being a mother. And so I do get it to like a point, but it's just like, you're like a child. How did that get so ingrained in you so fast that you're like, yeah, this is my deepest desire?
Honestly, I'm gonna be so real right now. I knew a girl in high school who was straight up younger than me and was like 16 and was dead ass trying to get pregnant with her boyfriend in high school intentionally on purpose. And
But
so
like at
it's
least it was a
definitely gonna happen.
boyfriend. It wasn't just like a you'll do situation. I mean that's not great, but like it wasn't just like a anyone who can give me a
Yeah.
baby.
Like,
Honestly though, I think that's why she was with him though, specifically.
was she religious?
No. She was just weird as shit. And I remember her man was in my grade. She was younger than us. Whatever. It's a whole thing. But basically, he was like, "Yeah, she's dead ass trying to get pregnant on purpose." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I can't be in this
Run.
conversation."
Red flag, run, get out.
Yikes! I gotta go. But yeah, it was weird. It was strange.
That's
So I
wild.
definitely went to school with people who thought that and had that goal, and I never understood it then either. So I don't know.
I also like don't
How
have
do
a
you do?
desire for kids, so like that's also like on me where I'm just like I don't get it.
That's fair.
I like kids, but not to the extent that I was trying to have them as a teenager. Like if I felt financially stable and like in a place where that seemed like a good call, I probably would have kids. I don't know that I've ever been like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
fuck any dude I can, and we're gonna make this happen. Like,
Yeah. No, the kids part isn't so bad. It's the fear of pregnancy part that it's like, no.
Mm.
And like as a small child who was like anorexic, no. Getting pregnant was like the biggest fear I could have ever possibly had in high school. Also,
Yeah.
my mom probably would have kicked my ass if I was like, hee hee, guess what, mom? Like, she wouldn't be happy.
I feel like I only knew like one or two people in high school who got pregnant.
I know.
I
I
knew a lot of people.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
There was a lot of pregnant girls at our high school. It was like almost a thing for all the pregnant girls would just come in late with their shit from fucking Dutch Bros, their
With their
nasty little
decaf
ruffle
Dutch.
drinks,
Yeah.
their decaf Dutch with their big tummy. It was like a whole gang of them. I was like,
Yeah.
this is a clique I'm not a part of and don't care about
Yeah.
what's happening here.
Yeah,
It's
a lot of
strange.
times it was like the cheerleaders or the girls that like did sports were usually the ones. But yeah, it was all like the juniors and seniors, and I was just like, it's happened again, and we're moving on. Like it just like it became so like it wasn't enough that it was normal, like people still talked about it, but it was enough that we stopped caring.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like a lot of maybe it's just because I went to like a super Mormon high school, so like nobody was really getting pregnant in high school. They were getting pregnant like right out of high school. But it just wasn't like a super like I remember like one girl who was a cheerleader got pregnant when we were freshmen. And then one girl who I kind of knew when we were seniors, she had sex for the first time and she got knocked up.
Oh no.
And so she was pregnant through like our second semester. But that's really it. And I'm like, my high school had like 2,000 people in it. That's buck wild.
I don't even think my high school was that big, and we had more than 2. But also like getting sex ed in my high school was extra like an elective, and there was 1 per term. And so it's like you can either be in the class like sex ed and like learn about health, or you can be in the class where you get like a fake baby. And those were the only 2, and you'd only get 1 chance, and there's maybe like 15 to 20 or so kids per class. So
Wow.
couldn't really like allow a lot of kids to take sex ed.
That's crazy.
Luckily,
I think it was like
started doing it in
required.
the 5th grade. So
It was like required at my school. They did it like a lot. It was like, I don't need this much, but okay.
yeah.
For us, we had 2 different levels of sex ed. So it was like sex ed, because it was just bundled under like health. So basically, it was you could take the health class and it was like about nutrition and about that kind of stuff. Or if you took level 2, then you would get sex ed in that class. So I took it, but like I guess you didn't have to if your parents
Yeah.
wouldn't let you take level 2.
Yeah, I remember going home like 5th grade being like, all right, mom, you have to sign my permission slip so I can learn sex ed. I'm 11 years old. And they're like, okay. And then we did it again in middle school, and then like high school, it was like, it's an option. Like, that doesn't feel right, but okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like in Washington it was like very much a thing of like it was like a huge class because everybody had to take it. It was weird. I remember being in sex ed in high school and the guy behind me had already gotten his girlfriend pregnant. She was currently pregnant. And I was like, it's too late for you. It was weird. It was weird. Actually, the funniest thing was that our teacher stood in the splits. She stood like this and taught the entire day, every day.
I hate
She
those
was
teachers.
super weird.
Why?
It was bad.
Be normal.
She was strange. Yeah. It's weird behavior, dude. No.
Yeah.
You can't sit like this and teach sex ed. That's criminal.
I'm trying to convince my cat to come here. Come here.
Please?
Amazing.
Please?
Will you come here? You son of a gun.
She's like, no, I hate you.
Oh no,
So I have 3 cats. 2 of them, the most photogenic. One of them hates cameras, and like she's a black cat, so something about cameras, she's just like, nope. Like immediately, every time. Hello, little baby.
Hi, Maisie.
Oh. I'm so happy.
I'm so mad at you.
I know you love being here and you love being friends.
Yeah, you're doing it for me. Just pretend you understand how computers work.
Okay, no, stop. There we
You're
go.
so
Now you're a little baby. One of the guys I was friends with in my sex ed class, basically, he and I had an agreement where I was like, I will do every paper on the vagina if you do every paper on the penis, and then we just don't have to learn anything.
I love that so much.
I got an A.
We learned how to make
That is so
I think meth in my sex ed class because it was also like /health
What?
class, and so there was like a unit on drugs. And I kid you not, we watched a video from like the news of a man making meth, and it was like, this is the ingredients, this is how much of the ingredients, and I'm like, are you going to show us this? I'm like 15 years old. Are we sure?
They do it different in Oregon.
dare
They're like, this
behavior.
is meth.
Love that.
That's hilarious. Also, love that Maisie is just fully a baby now.
She's she's a little baby.
So
Sure, she's
cute.
16, but she's a little baby.
Age is just a number, baby.
You're so beautiful,
I still think
even though you're so mad
so
at me right
funny.
now.
I think it's so funny that you adopted our old boss's cat and then moved her across the country. That will never not
ran away with her, absconded with her.
That's how you
Well,
do it.
hey, next time don't rehome your cat when she's 14, you know?
Yeah. Dude, the way I'm thinking about getting a second cat, I know I said I live with a velociraptor, but like the way I've been trying to get Peyton to get a second cat, and he was like, "We're getting married in 2 weeks. You
Here's the
cannot get
thing.
a second cat before the wedding."
It really helps because then they can play with each other. They get their energy out
Right.
together. And animals are just kind of like creatures that like to have others around them. Cats are definitely one of those. So I'm all in favor, and I will help argue however we need.
I think I may agree with Peyton that before the wedding is a little
Maybe
buck
not.
wild, but after the wedding, fair game.
After the wedding, yeah.
Yeah.
After the
That's
honeymoon,
kind of my yes, that's where I'm at. I'm like, let's go on our honeymoon and then let's get a second cat.
yes.
And
That's
he's like,
called
this
a
is
wedding
off to a good start.
So wedding present, you're expanding the family. That's what marriage is about.
Yeah,
Getting cats.
exactly. Exactly. My mom straight up was like, "Are you becoming a cat lady?" And I was like, "No. Why would you ever think that?"
It
Also,
would you ever
becoming, you've been wearing grandma sweaters for 6 years now.
That's true.
Hey, now I've been 25 going on 85 for a while now. So you
I'm
know we've
saying.
been. It ain't
You're like
new.
four
It
cats.
ain't new.
3 more cats and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that seems good.
We've
All right, well,
talked
we
about
gotta
this
wrap
before.
this up.
Why do people say you shouldn't look like a grandma? Why do people say that you shouldn't get a bunch of cats? Because you won't find a husband. Well, done and done. So what's
Yeah,
stopping
guess
you now?
what? Joke's on you.
Yeah, you're like, well, I already got him, so I might as well get 2 more cats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was about to
Of course
bring in
it is.
politics,
All
but I
right.
was like, nah, now leave it. We don't need to talk about the vice president options right now. But I'm in full support of every woman in the entire country becoming a cat lady right now. So that's my political statement.
My political stance
Well,
is that.
just that.
Yeah.
Become a cat lady. Do
Actually,
it. I'm
my
glad that
political
we started
stance is
off
that
talking
the
about this
VP
and got
candidate
there.
was at the fair the day I was there and I didn't see him, and I was pretty mad that I didn't see him.
Oh no. Could have slushied him like Glee.
I could have listen. We were because I'm from Minnesota and Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota, so he was
Oh.
just rolling up, and so we were like, what if we see him and convince him to do the gritty, and we say that we'll vote for him if he does it. What if we just do that? That's a thing we could do. He's like we're all at the fair
Yeah.
together, and we didn't see him, so
You wanna
missed
scavenger
opportunity.
hunt for a politician.
Oh my god. All right, well, it's been real, but my earpods are dying, and I have
Oh,
to
no.
go see a
Same.
woman about practicing on my hair for the wedding. Yesterday we were chainsawing some tree stumps for the wedding. It's been an adventure. You know,
What do I do for my hair and or makeup for your wedding? You don't have to tell me now, but text me because I'm geeking out.
Literally whatever you want to do. Also, my cousin Emma's gonna be there, and she's the fashionista who's like good with curling irons and shit. So I'm gonna be like, pack your shit. Help.
Okay.
Also, Peyton's
Good
aunt is
job.
doing my hair because if she doesn't do my hair, I'm gonna look like Hermione Granger, and we can't have that. So my hair's gotten so big, it's like this. I look like a hag when I put it down. The clips are saving me. It's a whole thing. Anyway,
I love that for you. I am getting
I'm
a haircut.
and I'm also
I'm getting a little bit of a haircut this week just to clean it up so it doesn't look like hot trash when I head down there. But other than that, I don't know what's happening with it yet. So I'll experiment. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with a wedding. You just gotta look good in the pictures. Nobody else will remember the night. Alea will be way too stressed for anything going on and won't remember anything. So just make sure the photos are good.
That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, if I learned anything about weddings, it's like the bride and groom are so stressed and busy the whole time, and everyone else is just having a good time. So it's like, make it as easy as you can, and then just party.
Fair enough.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
No?
oh my god,
Hi.
my earbuds are tweaked. Peter. So that's cool. It's good. It's going great. But I gotta go because so
We talked for so
thank
long,
you
and
for talking both
most of
of
it's
us.
not about the book. Yeah.
Good to see y'all.
Are my earbuds plugged back in now? Oh my god. No,
I'll
they're
have to
not.
do this more often.
Okay, well this is cool. Bye.
Bye. But no, seriously, we all need to do this way more often.